Nice. Dude. Yes. Set up for some more painting. Oop, nope, don't do that. Nope. Yes. Nice. That will definitely work. All right. Morning. I do some painting and bring everybody along with me that wants to watch. If you have any questions or about anything, feel free to fire them up. Be on for a bit. We're painting more of these 3D printed trees today. Got to try to get some more of these done. I only have 3 bigger ones. I printed up a mess of these smaller ones. Oh, this one's missing some primer. Missed a spot. We'll see. But I'll get through the big ones first, and hopefully we'll still be able to do the other ones. Trying to get this stuff done so I don't have a pile of 3D printed stuff just lying around needing to be painted. This is all for a project anyway, so I'm trying to diligently work on it. I have a bunch of projects in the works right now, so. See much of that. It's I do use speed paints. I don't have any here with this setup for this stuff, but I do use them. I haven't noticed any. I don't use different brushes. I am not great at taking care of my brushes. I should be much better after all this time painting, but I'm pretty bad at it. If I have to, if I do admit. But I haven't noticed that speed paints damage them more. I do know like what I'm doing now is hard on brushes. The dry brushing. The brush I'm using right now is a very cheap craft brush that I've had forever. So it's perfect for that. The other cheap brushes that I'll get, especially for dry brushing, are there's a dollar store not far from my home. I'll go there and I'll buy makeup brushes because those work good as dry brushes. I actually learned about that. I was at my local game store, Crossroad Games, and they were doing a paint and take one night, and I was there, and I was painting, and I was sitting at the table with a bunch of other painters, and there was this woman there painting with us, and I didn't get her name, but we were chatting, and she said that, oh yeah, I use makeup brushes for dry brush, and I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, they work great, and she was using them, and so I got to see it firsthand. So ever since then, I I just go there. It only cost me a couple bucks to get, really decent makeup dry brushes. Kind of, I don't mind spending money on brushes. I think for dry brushes, I think it's probably silly to, you see some that are a stupid amount of money. And I get why some brushes are expensive. I have expensive brushes, but I can't see doing it for a dry brush because dry brushing will wreck a brush. I've bought even inexpensive uh, dry brushes that are specific for that purpose, and they don't last. Not really worth the money, in my opinion. I just soon go just fork over some money. Either get a big package of, like at a art store, Michaels, AC Moore, whatever you have, Hobby Lobby. You can get those for cheap because dry brushing is going to ruin them, or just go to like a dollar store and buy makeup brushes. And you can get all different sizes, and they work good. And I just run those until they are junk, and then I throw them away. Which is, but I do like speed paints. I came around to them kind of slowly, not because I was like, they're not. Some people get a little bit too much ego wrapped up in their hobbies. I tried them. I tried actually the Games Workshop contrast paints, which I use also, when they first came out. And to be honest, I didn't like them at all. And a big part of it was how the model was prepped. And like Games Workshop was like, oh, just buy our bone white primer and prime them and wash them over there. And I tried that, and I had very mixed results, but often poor results. And I was to the point where I was ready to just throw them all in the trash. I'm like, I'm never going to use these things. These suck. And then on good old YouTube, I saw probably my first, I don't remember who did it. I can't give him credit, but I wish I could. I saw my very first video that showed like slap chop for prepping the miniatures. So I started messing around with that and saw immediate improvement in my use of speed contrast paint. It was contrast paint back then. And slowly got more and more acclimated to using them. Um, yeah, so those early GW videos, in my opinion, were trash because I actually saw people that used to work for GW after they left do videos on using contrast paints, and they didn't use the method that they showed in the GW method to like prep their model. So I think a lot of that's corporate, like, hey, you got to do it this way. We want to push our primer and all that nonsense. But yeah, so I do use them. I haven't tried the markers. My shop, local Crossroads, has them, and I've come close to buying them. I only messed around when they first came out. They had like a demo thing out, and I messed around with them at the demo, but not to the extent where I had any sort of feel for them or not. I would like to try them because I do like them, and especially if you're. The thing I like about speed and contrast paints is you can do them to different degrees. Like if you just want to get something on the table that looks decent, they're great. But then if you just want like to actually make something really good, I mean, you can start to use those as a base and then go over them again and highlight them and I do all that stuff depending on what I'm doing for what the model is for. Sometimes, if it's for a client, I'll use some speed paints and then I go over them and do highlights and yeah, it just works. The biggest thing with speed paint is learning brush control, which is a great skill to have anyway. But you really got to work on your brush control because you got to keep that within the lines, right? It helps a lot if you do that. But yeah, I like them. I like them. I'm not a hobby snob. Like I think I mentioned it in the last live stream. I remember in a time in the hobby when people looked down on dry brushing and like nonsense. That's nonsense, in my opinion. All of it has its place. You might, there's different ways. There's not like a way to paint. There's the, oh, I'm sorry. There's a way. There's not a the way. People have different styles that work for them. And I'll watch videos. Still learning stuff. Um, always trying to learn stuff. Try to get better. Like I have a certain, like for what I do for commission work, it's geared towards play. I don't consider myself a, um, shit, the word that kind of escapes me. I'm not a, like, um, display. I'm not a display painter. I wouldn't call myself a display painter, um, at all, but I get good feedback, from my clients and people that see my stuff. Shockingly so sometimes because you're always your own worst critic if you're you know honest with yourself. I think, um, but yeah, I would definitely use, especially if you're just getting into it. I I recommend people actually use speed paints. I mean, it's good to learn how to use the other paints too, because you do learn stuff, painting techniques and all that stuff. But like just getting into the hobby, so you want to see decent results, because that's the thing with this hobby, and I've seen that happen to a bunch of people, is they just get discouraged because they'll want to paint something and they're like, oh, I want to paint this, and then when they try to paint it, it sucks. At least especially to them, it sucks. It may not suck, but it's not going to be great. Right off the bat, typically, and that's no shame. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's you're learning a new skill. So very few people are great out of the gate with a new skill. So with speed paints, you can get really good results, right off the bat with just a little bit of practice. So that can be encouraging for you to go on and not get discouraged with it. So you go on to learn other painting techniques and expand your repertoire of skills as a painter. My male cat is sitting. Hey, D&D Dad, how you doing? Good morning to you. I'm just laughing at my male cat, Jackson. He's sitting over my FLGS Crossroads again. I bring them up because they're great. The owner's a good friend of mine. They just had their 27th anniversary sale this weekend, so I went over, and my son and I went over and came back with a pile of loot. It was a really good deal. So I got a metric ton of miniatures through. I bought um, three of the three boxes from the Massive Darkness game, so like a core game, and then two other boxes. Like a heck of a deal on that stuff. And then I ended up getting, if you follow Warhammer at all, they had a release a while back called Skaven Tide, and they had a few handful of boxes of those left over that they were selling at a decent discount. And I bought a box of those, so I came home with more Skaven than I'll ever need. Telling my son, he bought some. My son doesn't even paint miniatures, but he uses them in his game. I paint his miniatures, um, but he bought some because he's already planning his the next leg of our Dragon Slayer campaign, which won't be played until probably next year sometime when his turn as a GM in our weekly group comes back up. Um, but he's already planning it. So, and I had put in a bug in his ear already about wanting to, because I play a cleric in that game, about wanting to do something with undead. So he bought some miniatures. So I put one together yesterday for him, but I got a bunch more I got to assemble and get painted before that happens. Thankfully, I have time. I don't have time to do it now. Really, I got working on this stuff. I have another painting project that's kind of a bug in my ear right now, but it's for my father-in-law. Kind of a tough paint, and I have a commission from DM Bloodworth that I'm working on. I got two that are almost done, pretty close. more in the works. And I'm also working on some stuff for the Emperor Choice guys. Do Arduin, Bloody Arduin, the role playing game. So I'm doing some stuff for them. Um, Thankfully, I have more time on that one. I don't have to complete that until like next summer, and I'll bring that stuff to them when we see each other again in person at CNYCon. I'll bring that stuff there so they can have it. Um, that stuff's a little timid. I mean, they're great models. George and Dave from Emperor's Choice are great guys. Check them out. They have a bunch of really cool old school style miniatures. I really like them. I've posted some on my YouTube channel that I've finished so far. A lot of those are actually from my own collection that I from my collection that I painted. My son he bought some for me to paint that he used in his Dragon Slayer game against us. And but George and Dave from Emperor's Choice are two great guys. Like you'll never meet two people that love the hobby as much as those guys do. So they have some good stuff. Check them out. And they just keep expanding their stuff. They got their own, like, not their own, but they have a paint line now. Um, Game miniatures. Yeah, they just go way above and beyond for everybody. Real good guys. But I figured I'd get on here, start doing this more often. I'm trying to boost the channel a little bit, and it's my favorite part, honestly. And it's probably sound cliche or silly. Is this like interacting with you guys? Hey, thanks, man. That's old school, but yeah, I love Daredevil. He's one of my favorites. Is interacting with everybody. Like that was a real byproduct of my YouTube channel that I didn't expect. Like I didn't like when I started putting the gaming. There's other content, old content on there from my previous life, but when I was working. But um, I started putting the YouTube videos on about our games. I just did it for myself because I didn't want to write down recaps. I just figured I'd record them, and if I needed them, I could listen to them later. And then actually started to develop a little bit of a following, and realize how much fun that was to interact with folks and share ideas and opinions and get feedback. I love to hear about people watching our games and what they think, and pretty cool, really cool actually. Yeah, I haven't finished them. I'm horrible about buying like books and then not finishing reading them. I bought in graphic novel form the Frank Miller. I think it's Frank Miller Daredevil series. It's like 3 books, and I think I read the first one, really good, and it had no reflection on the books that I didn't finish reading them. That is just me. I do that all the time with graphic novels and books. I buy books a lot. I listen to more books, but I've loved books since I was a kid. So I grew up a big reader, and then as I got older, my attention span really went to hell, and I I don't tend to read as much. I listen to a lot of books. Right now. I'm reading Hawk Moon by Michael Moorcock. It's taken me forever to finish it, not because it's a bad book, because I'm a bad reader as far as like keeping my attention. I was reading some before that earlier this year. I was reading books by Dennis McKiernan, who wrote like the Midgard series, and those I really like those, like the high fantasy books. He gets knocked because his first novels were, um, they're Tolkien ripoffs, but also if you look into like the backstory behind those, is he wrote those original novels to be intended as sequels to the Lord of the Rings, and then the Tolkien estate decided not to allow to let people do that, and his publisher liked his book so much that he just told them, basically change some things, and they published them. So there are a definite, you can tell like this is was intended to be like the retaking of the Mines of Moria and all that stuff, and it was great. I really enjoyed them. But I went on to read some of his other stuff, and I really liked it. Like it wasn't derivative, as well any less than any fantasy book written in that era was. I mean, Tolkien inspired so many people and continues to do so to this day. But they're good. They're really good books. And I ended up buying all of his Midgard stuff. I haven't read it all. I took a break to read this Hawkmoon book, and I will possibly go back to it after I finish it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I have another book that was recommended by my friend Matt, who's on our Tuesday night stream a lot. Um, and it's The Long Ships. It's about Vikings, so it looked really good. So I bought the book, and I may read that next. But yeah, no, you can't paint and read at the same time. And when I was working, I used to drive 10 plus hours a day, so I would listen to a lot of Audible books and kind of really develop that habit. Audible, the books on tape and audio like that are great. Like, I got through a lot. I'm still do that. I don't. I'm right now re-listening to Joe Abercrombie's First Law trilogy, which is really good. I've listened to it before, decided to go back to it, and I'm really glad I did because it's such a great series. And I realized there was a lot of stuff that I had forgotten about. So that is a series like Tolkien I listen to fairly often, almost once a year, and then the Joe Abercrombie stuff will probably get revisited. Maybe not that often because there's a lot more books, but I will re-listen to it. Like his new book, The Devils, I've already listened to that twice. Like it's really good. Yeah, I have plenty of time to read. It's just I get so distracted, with electronics. The digital age is murder on my attention span. So I'm retired, so I have plenty of time to read. I don't have that excuse. I'll sit down and I enjoy it when I do it, but I'm like, I find myself, I go to bed and read. That's typically when I read, and then if I if I'm not distracted with my stupid phone, I read. But I last about 5 minutes before I'm like out cold snoozing. So um, yeah, I grew up a reader. My dad was a reader. I got that habit from him. I always had books in the house. I bought books. I had books from when I was a kid. And then reading was a thing. Like my cousin who lived with us in the summer sometimes for a couple summers, the one that introduced me to D&D, he was a reader. He would go to the library and come back with he introduced me to all these different fantasy books. Conan I knew about from comics and stuff. Oh, Maddie, cats into stuff. Scared the hell out of me. I was like, I don't know what that was. All like Chronicles of Amber and all that stuff, Roger Zelazny and stuff. It's just really cool stuff. And what bums me out about Audible books though is I do like a lot of the old. I grew up reading all those old like Conan and all that stuff. Problem is the narrators they get them isn't great in my opinion. They aren't great, and a narrator will make or break an Audible book. Um, I was listening to this series by Bernard Cornwell, the Saxon, the Last Viking series, when they made the Netflix show about. And I listened to, it started off with the first three books, and they were awesome, awesome. And they were narrated by one of my favorite narrators, a guy named Jonathan Keeble. And then in the what was it, the fourth? No, it must have been the third book. They switched narrators, and I was like, oh man, I hate when they do that. But then I looked, in the fourth book, Jonathan Keeble was back. So the third narrator wasn't bad. He just wasn't Jonathan Keeble, and I associated all the characters with his voices, and obviously that guy can't mimic that. And then so I got through his book, went in for the fourth, listened to um, the fourth, which was done by Keeble, and then I checked the rest. It's a long series, like 13 books, I think. The rest of them, Keeble doesn't do any of them, and I was like, I can't do it. So I am ultimately probably going to end up buying them and trying to read them because I really liked that series a lot. Like I didn't know, like I've listened to some other Bernard Cornwell stuff, and I really liked it, but like that historical fiction is a kind of a newer genre to me. But I really, really liked it. Like I never wanted to jump into a Viking longship and go, you know, attack another, group of people in my entire life more than reading those books. Like, it was like, oh, it's really cool. Actually influenced like my gaming. Like I was like, I need a game like where you can do this. And I ended up picking up Baptism of Fire by RPG Pundit, which was really cool. Historical, not a true historical game, but based on actual history type stuff. And if you haven't checked it out, it's pretty neat. It is based on actual history, but it's also there's believed at the time, so they believed about this. In the Keeble I'm sorry, the Cornwell books were kind of that way a little bit, like the main character. Like he talked about being the knight. What would he call it? There was some name that he called it, like how he was at home at night, like kind of like super like stealthy and became part of the night and stuff. And he was just really good at sneaking around and sabotaging stuff. But yeah, they're great. I have them on the shelf behind me. They're the only RPG pundit stuff that I have. Um, they're really nice. I I like them. I'm kind of the same way with RPG books as I am with role playing game books. I get stuff and then I look at it for a bit and then it goes on the shelf and I'm like, oh man, I don't end up looking at it much. But I pull those down every once in a while and I'll read them or read through them and there's cool stuff in there. Definitely, it would be an interesting game. I think for the right group of people. I don't regret buying them, and I can't say that about all the books I bought because there are some that I'm like, I shouldn't have bought that. Shouldn't have bought that. Oh, all right. Let's let's consolidate here. I'm gonna put these over here. I used up that paint, so we'll do the other ones. Oh, that's cool. I should check that out. I like that. Adding that stuff to my game. I don't know if I've seen that one. Yeah, he has good stuff. Like he does his products seem really good. I don't have the baptism. I have baptism for fire. I have 101 summations. It's four baptisms of fire. It goes into more detail about the noble houses and stuff that are in the setting. Um, and then I have the last Viking book, which is um, there's a section of the setting that there's a Viking outpost. So I think it's for that. I think you can also use it for other stuff. So the way I've heard people talk about it, so I think it's multi-use. But it all looked good. My friend Jason showed it off on. I always liked the cover. I was aware of the game, but and I always thought the cover was pretty badass. And then on one of our streams, Jason pulled it up off the shelf and showed it. I don't remember what we were talking about. And I was like, oh, that looks just really cool. And so I ended up pulling the trigger on it. I actually got them through Amazon. They weren't very expensive. And I didn't have to wait forever and a day like if I ordered them through drive-through. Oh, let's see, get some more of these trees done. I printed up. I'm hoping I don't have to print any more for this project that I'm on. I have other trees that I have already finished that I can use too, which I will use. But I've just been printing up terrain. So I actually printed up this rock and another one. These were free files on I have a Bamboo 3D printer, so there's on their website through their app or whatever. There's tons of like free files, so I found those and printed them up. I printed up these. I think I showed these off last time, but these are just scatter train boxes and crates. That was a free file. So, what is that? Yeah, yeah, probably that's what they style that. That's funny. I should somehow do some sort of homage to Charlie Brown on it. That would be funny. But yeah, this is all for a project for next. Obviously, it's going to be used in my home games too. But what? Cat batting around something they probably shouldn't have. My home games too, but this is for a project for a game at CNY next year. I got some of this. What the hell is that? Printed up some of this 3D terrain, more stuff. So it's going to look pretty cool. I'll show some stuff. My gaming table is covered up right now, but I got to clear it off because we played the other night, so that stuff gets put away anyway. And then I can start working on the layout for all this stuff. So what What are you guys doing? Like, what is everybody's game of choice right now? What are we playing for games? I like all sorts of role playing games. So Dragon Slayer. All right, yeah, we just finished my son's, and man, my son and I were just talking about it yesterday when we were over shopping at Crossroads, and I had a blast playing his Dragon Slayer game. I really got into our characters. We had a great dynamic between the characters. The adventure he spun up for us, which was pulled out of his head. He made it up himself. We played 10 sessions of it. Had a blast. I can't wait to actually play that game again. Like, and he had a great time running it to the point where like he didn't really want to stop running it, but he got to a conclusion, and then we'll bounce. We're going to play some Call of Cthulhu next, run by my friend Chris. That's going to be fun. But I don't get to play too many like long term campaign characters. Like most of it's like one shots and stuff. And I run long term games, obviously, but so I view our Dragon Slayer characters as long term characters. Like I'm already thinking like, oh, what do I want him to do? Like what is the end goal? I mean, we're a ways from that, which I'm happy about because I want to have many more adventures with these characters. But what is his end goal going to be? He is 21. He'll be 22 this year. He's been playing since I think I introduced him to games like around 5 or 6, and then he might have been between 7 and 9 when he joined our regular group. He used to come in and watch us, and he was always fascinated by. I've always had a real good relationship with him, and he was always kind of really fascinated by what we were doing. And the very first movie we ever took him to see was the Spiderwick Chronicles, and he really liked it. And he just kind of got hooked on the fantasy vibe, and he got into it. And then he joined our game. I used to play a lot of games with him. There was one point like our group wasn't playing a lot because everybody was so spread out. We just weren't getting together, and he and I were doing one-offs, and he really pushed me as a game master because I knew coming into it like he was a big video game kid, and I was competing with video games. So I wanted to make the games as immersive as possible to try to hook him in, and we so we would play like 4 or 5 hour sessions, and no joke, like 95% of those sessions were all in character, like role play and combat and stuff. He's a kid. When he started off, I've seen this great progression in him. Like he started off, he just wanted to you know kick down doors and kill dragons and get loot. And then later on, he really developed into a really good role player, like one of the best I get to play with. And when I noticed that one time um, like we would get up like in the room we would play in the room I'm in now, and we would um get up to go get like a snack because the kitchen's right over here, and we would still be in character talking, like having our discussions, getting our food or whatever. And then one time we were talking about it, and I was just like told him, I mean he's just a little guy, and I was like, hey man, I'm super impressed of like how much you know how well you role play, how much you're into it and stuff. And he just kind of looked at me like I was kind of silly, and he was like, well, he's like, I don't know any other way to play because that's how you play with me. So I was like, oh, that was like a light bulb moment for me, right? And as far as teaching people how to play games, and he just really took to it. And it was funny because I remember when the Star Wars sequels were coming out, and we hadn't seen them yet. So our group were big Star Wars fans. We were all excited for them, and I was like, and I many years ago I ran West End Games Star Wars D6, which is the best version of Star Wars role playing game. I ran it for 4 or 5 years. We had a blast. And I was like, hey, with the movies coming out, we should just run like a one shot, to kind of celebrate the movie coming out. So everybody was on board, and I got together with him. We made a character, and I was like, I wanted to do some combat so I could refresh myself. And so I set up like this scenario, like a little bit. It was just basically a combat scenario, and I kind of plopped his character in the middle of it, and like he stops me right in the beginning. He's like, "Well," he's like, "I like why? I need some backstory here." He's like, "Why am I here? Like, what's going on?" So I had to like come up with this little like scenario for him to be like get into it. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm doing this, and then away we went. But it was just funny, like to see. I'm like, oh wow, like this kid's really into it. And he one of the he's 21, and he one of the games I ran, campaigns I ran for the actually the group that's playing my CNC group now. It was for that group, and the best campaign I'll probably ever run was that campaign, and it was the role play in that campaign was so good. There was so many times where I just sat back as a spectator and just watched them like interact with each other. You know, it was a lot of investigation. It was kind of a horror inspired game. It was inspired by a lot of stuff, but there was a lot of horror, a lot of investigation, trying to figure out what was going on, who was behind the scenes, doing all this stuff. And it was a such a joy just to sit back and um, watch those guys go. And I mean, I have those guys in the game now, which is great because we're doing the same thing. But there was just something about that campaign. It was like kind of like that lightning in a bottle type thing. It would probably be the best campaign I ever run, and um, he was part of that. He was a big part of that actually. And when my friends Matt and Chris, who played in that game, playing in that game with him was their first exposure to playing with my son. And their sons played at the time too, but they just played very differently. My son was just really got into it, and he was a very mature gamer for his age, and still is. Like he now he's like, I mean, he likes combat and stuff like that, but he also really likes he or likes the role playing stuff even more. Like like the scene. Spoiler: there'll be a scene in the recap that I recorded this morning. I haven't posted it yet, but he will. There was a scene with him and some NPCs that he really enjoyed, and it was fun to play and watch it and watch get played out. So it was good. I'm lucky to have the guys that I have. I hope some of them get to come back before the end of the campaign because we are working towards the end. I don't know when it's going to be, but I am working towards the end of this campaign so we can move on to something else after. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. I got the Pathfinder 1E beginner box set, and that was a really good box set. I wish Pathfinder Paizo had made because it only went to like I think levels 1 to 3 or whatever. I wish they'd made that game that way for levels 1 through 20. I would have kept playing it. It reminded me of like Red Box D&D. They did a really good job with that box set, and we did that adventure in that and a little bit of other stuff. And it was just on me. I just wasn't motivated to work on game stuff at that time. I don't think my regular group was playing that much, and I'd kind of lost a little bit of enthusiasm. But then he was always interested in playing, and then we got back into it, and it was great. And it was, I mean, and the playing was great. But what was also great is like we typically play on the week. We always played on the weekends. We still do, and then I would drive him to school on Monday morning, and it was a little bit of a drive, probably half hour, 45 minutes, and he would just want to talk about the game the whole way. Like he would ask like tons of questions, very insightful questions for his age, like trying to figure things out or just yeah, he was just very into it. And not only did it make him like a better gamer, it really made us even closer. So we had a really close bond, and a lot of that was through gaming. I think it's a great thing to do if you got kids if they're into it. Like my friends that I play with, Matt and Chris, their kids aren't really they played, but then they weren't really into it, so they didn't stick with it. Like one of them, he got really into like Bolt Action, the miniatures game, and kid's a genius with like historical like World War II type stuff. Like he knows all that stuff. He got right into it and studied it, and good for him. Like he found the thing that he was into. That's awesome. It doesn't have to be D&D or whatever. You know. Um, and the other one, my other friend Chris, his sons, they played with us for a bit, but they actually like all of them like Call of Cthulhu as a game. They'll play Call of Cthulhu with us sometimes, and they're fun to play with because they they like get freaked out by everything, which they kind of feed into the whole vibe of like, oh, this is not a good, it's not D&D, it's scary, and they play that very well. It's funny to watch them freaking out. Jesus, freaking cat, always into something. Yeah, so it's funny to watch. But I'm lucky that I have guys that are into like playing different games. I play with different groups, not as much as I had been like a year or two ago. I was playing with a bunch of different groups. It'd be nothing to have like three, sometimes even four sessions a week. Sometimes that was rare, but like three sessions was not unusual. And I was playing all sorts of different games. Now I still play with multiple groups, but it's not as frequent. Like actually, I think hopefully we're playing our monthly Dragon Bane campaign this coming weekend. Playing that, which is good. We're getting towards the end of that adventure, I think. Another tree down. Yay. Oh, wait, I think I finished. Oh, I finished all the big ones. What happens? I get yapping and I stop focusing on what I'm doing, which is good because then it doesn't, because this stuff isn't hard to paint. It just can be a little bit monotonous. Oh, well, we'll go back and do the bases. No, we'll do these. Yeah, OSE is a good game too. We played it. My son ran a couple sessions of OSE last summer for me and a friend. Um, he actually preferred Dragon Slayer. I did in the fact like OSE is great. I don't have really an issue with it. I thought like I was playing a druid, and I thought the spell list for in Dragon Slayers for druid was way better than the OSE one. So I and at the end of it, we only played a few sessions before the scheduling killed it, unfortunately. But my son just ended up preferring Dragon Slayer. Although it's funny in Dragon Slayer, he got the new OSE GM screen, and he uses that in Dragon Slayer because Dragon Slayer doesn't have a combat matrix chart, which I think it should, but he uses the OSE chart, which is fine. That worked great when we used it. Yeah, scheduling is the death of it. What I did was I had a 5e campaign that lasted like 7 years, and the biggest reason it lasted 7 years was because it just took forever to get people together. We would play like once a month if we could, and then there was months where we would gap. I mean, we've been consistent with our. So what I did, I hated it. Like there was many times where like we'd have last minute cancellations, and I tried to keep the sessions where so I wanted everybody there because a lot of it was that campaign was very personal to their characters. Like I did my video about immersion, like I talked about it, like the backstories that they came up with were tied into what the campaign was, and it was really good that way. Like I think with the right group, especially ones that can be there consistently, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast. But scheduling wise, it was murder. So when I started the CNC campaign, I was talking to my friend Brendan, who owns Crossroad Games and very experienced game master. And I was, telling him about my frustration because there was a couple times I had like last minute cancellations. I'm like, listen, you've had months to get this date free, and then all of a sudden you have something to do, and it would just frustrate the hell out of me. And there was a few times I just like put my books on the shelf, and if it wasn't for my son, because he was a player in that game and his character was very important in that campaign, he really liked his character. I may have just packed in that campaign and just went, I'm out, but I didn't. A lot of it, I think, was because of him, because I didn't want to disappoint him and not giving him a chance to play out, his character. So when I did the CNC, when I started my CNC campaign, I switched to a Wes Marches style. So I'm like, I don't care who shows up. I want you all to show up, but if you don't, we're playing. And I mean, and we ended up going away from it when we kind of consolidated. I had like 8 players, and then it kind of really consolidated to 5 core players. And now I'm down to 3 core players, but I'm like, we're still running it. And, we had 2 when we played this weekend because one of them was away for his wedding anniversary, which is understandable. We play twice a month, and I play with whoever shows up. And and we have 92 sessions in 5 years, almost five. I think we're at 5 year mark now. We've only missed 1 month, and that was because we were doing our annual gaming weekend where we got together like for the whole weekend and play. So I didn't run it my session that month, and that was when we were doing it monthly. Now we're twice a month, and yeah, that won't change. Oh yeah, that'd be great, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, my we've messed around with a few things, and I keep telling my boy that we ought to do something like that, come up with our own. We have some stuff we printed off, but yeah, he ended up using the OSE one. The new one, I mean, the information's the same. The art for the new one's awesome. I have the older one. I'm kind of jealous. I like the new one better. But I don't run OSE, or not currently. I mean, I haven't ruled out running OSE because, like I said, I do like OSE. Um, so, but if I run it, I'll just if I really want the art, I'll just borrow his thing, his screen, because he just plays games with us. So all of his stuff. He's going back to college next weekend, so he'll be moving out, but he'll be here some weekends and stuff. But yeah, it's good though, like to mess around with different games, and you can what I like about the like Dragon Slayer, I think is a great foundational game system. I mean, it's a lot like BX. It's BX, which it actually helped remind me that BX is my favorite version of D&D. I always thought it was AD&D, which I played a lot of AD&D. I started with basic, expert, and stuff, and then we went to advanced and played that probably longer. And I always but I always thought that was my favorite, and that was more nostalgia. When I started playing Dragon Slayer and then started looking again at BX and stuff, like BX is my favorite. It has my favorite art in it, has just that whole feel. And Dragon Slayer for me captured that. But what I like about Dragon Slayer too is it's very you can modify it super easy. Like we change things. Like in our if anybody's watched any of the recaps, we're playing. Well, my there's two halflings in the group. I play one of them and play a halfling cleric, and my friend Matt he plays a halfling barbarian. They're not allowed by the rules. Cleric might be. I'm not sure, but probably not. But we ignored that stuff, like the class race restrictions. Ignored it. Doesn't change the game, in my opinion, in a negative way. Just gives you some more options. So we ignored that stuff. My son brought in. He liked the Hyperborea crit system, so he used that. No problem. It worked great. Um, what else? What else? I don't know if he changed much more than that. I'd have to ask him because whatever he did, I didn't really notice it. So, um, yeah, it worked great. So it's a great system. Like you could build a great, like if you're looking for like a BX style game for your table that you want to like mold to fit your table. I think it's a great. Dragon Slayer is great. I thought. I mean, yeah, it's missing a combat matrix. It should have one, in my opinion, for that style of game. And like I said, my son used when he ran it last year because he ran it for us last summer too, a different campaign with different characters. I think he used that target 20 method, and then this year because he had finally gotten the OSE um, game master screen, he just used the chart on that for the attacks. Obviously, the saves were different, so we used the Dragon Slayer saves because that's what our character sheets had and stuff. So that worked well. That worked really well. But yeah, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I wouldn't mind trying to run some OSE because I do like OSE. I think it's a good, solid system. The books are the gold standard for layout, in my opinion. Um, really like how they're done. I Yeah, and I have some stuff that I have a couple of OSC adventures. One of them I actually played as a player, but we used the Dragonbane. Find it real quick. We used the Dragonbane system for that because that's real popular. Dragonbane's super popular in one of my groups, rightfully so, because it's an awesome game. Let's see. Nope, that is not it. Ah, Jesus. This is it right here. So we ran through this adventure in a weekly game called the Elder Oak. You can get it on Exalted Funeral if they have it in stock. This was great. What a great adventure. I mean, this thing is like, excuse me, it's like 26 pages with the maps. And I don't remember how many sessions we got. We got at least 16 sessions out of it with a group that's really heavy into role play. But like I said, we use Dragonbane for it. I could run that with OSC. It's kind of like a mini, not one shot, but because it will take you more than a one shot to get it done. But yeah, that was a great adventure. I wouldn't mind running it. Man, my nose is killing me. What do I need? I need this. Yeah, we definitely got our money's worth out of my friend Brian, who ran that game. He definitely got his money's worth. I mean, this is maybe $15 for this, and we got like 16 sessions out of it. I think I'd have to look at my notebook for my notes. I played Dwarven Fighter. One of my dwarves are one of my favorite races, and fighter isn't. I mean, I like to vary up what I play. I am a sucker for playing dwarves, but I don't mind playing different classes. I like to change it up. Yeah, we had a great time, and we're doing. My friend Brian is now running our monthly Dragonbane campaign. We're doing the Mega Dungeon Ave Nox, which is really good, like super good. Probably one of them. I don't have a lot of Mega Dungeon experience, but I would say out of the ones I've owned and read, it's probably one of the best. It's more than just kicking down doors and looting places. Like there's a lot of faction work and figuring out like what happened to this place that we're in, and just weirdness too. Like we're not fighting like orcs and goblins all at all. It's just like weird stuff in this dungeon. It's not really a dungeon, but yeah, really good, really good. Big fan. Yeah, I think we're getting close to the end. I think. I mean, I'm not saying the next session is going to be the end, but I think we're getting closer anyway. We make progress, so. And we're using, like I said, we're using Dragonbane, which is my favorite non D&D fantasy system. I ran a few sessions using Barrowmaze and using Dragon Slayer, and I liked it. Scheduling killed that game. I only had a couple players. It was kind of a weird during the daytime, so only a few of my players and my cousin Dan would come down and play. But that ended up kind of fizzling out, unfortunately. I didn't get into it enough to say I didn't like it. I enjoyed the time that I played it. And then last summer, my son's Dragon Slayer game, he used Highfell, and we played like I think 8 sessions set there. I enjoyed it. I played an Elven Wizard in that game, and I enjoyed it. Was trying to, there was stuff to figure out. My son though kind of got bored doing it, and so that's why he opted this summer when he ran his campaign to come up with his own adventure and set in my setting that I've been running games out of for the last, I don't know, long time now, 10 years or so, more than that, more than that, easily. Yeah, I've been running it for a while, but he decided to set a game place there, so he's fleshing out part of my setting that I just basically introduced them to in our game, but he's taken it to the next level, which has been really cool for me. Yeah. Barrel of the Unbroken King. Oh, nice. I typically don't run a lot of pre-written stuff, although for our weekly game, I'm more inclined to, just so I I don't have to like because my CNC game is a homebrew game for the most part. So I'm like to separate the brain power. I don't I run pre-written stuff for the weekly game, which is fine. I don't have anything against. I just prefer to do my own thing. I don't have anything against pre-written material, but there's a lot of, and I buy stuff and then I look at it and sometimes use it a little bit for inspiration, or it just goes back on the shelf. But I have some adventures that I would like to run. I did run a while back. My Not my last stint. Oh well, yeah, my last stint for the weekly game, I ran Raging Swans Shadowed Keep on the Borderlands, which I've shown off on the Tuesday night stream. That's an awesome adventure, like old school style adventure. If you're looking for one, um, some people have probably already seen me talk about this, but oh man, this book here. This is awesome. I really enjoyed this. It reminded me of the Village of Hamlet, and it gives you a complete setting to work with. There's a map, complete town to work out of, and then a full blown adventure to boot, with a lot of like possibilities for doing other stuff. There's a lot written for their setting. One of these days, I'm going to do a video, hopefully with RPG Grandpa, about that and Raging Swan Press's material. Hey, Dan. Doing some painting and flapping my gums about game stuff. Yeah, yeah, I gotta get these finished up. They'll actually have some leaves on them when I'm done, but I'm getting them painted first. You'll actually get to see these in person because they're all coming to CNY with me next year. So oh, yep, this and all this, all the stuff that's on the table in front of me that you can't see. All this stuff is coming to CNY next year, hopefully. Hopefully. Uh, yeah, same. I was just talking to Roger about that the other night after our stream there. He and I stayed on for a bit shooting the breeze, and I was like, yeah, I just can't wait until the next one. To be honest, like I've been wanting the same thing. As soon as I left, I'm like, I can't wait to come back for the next one. It was such a good time, and I just hung out with everybody. I didn't even game this year. I will next year, but I didn't this year. I think Rogers talked me into doing running my first con game in the works. So we'll see. But if I crash and burn, I'm just going to blame it all on him. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to show up on Thursday and leave on Sunday and have a great time with everybody gaming and hanging out. Just a really good time. Like he I told him this the other night when I was talking to him privately, and I was just like, everybody I hear talk about CNY, and they're not on like Roger's stream, and they're on their own streams. And if CNY comes up, it is nothing but praise. Like, people, he just killed it. Like, he really did a great job organizing it. And not only organizing, I mean, organizing is definitely part of it, a big part of it, but like just developing the vibe that you want, right? Like, where everybody's friends. There's no, the special guests are great. They're all mingling with everybody, and everybody's treated really, really well. Like you're just an old friend, gaming that you've been gaming with forever. So it was really good. Like, I don't have a ton of con experience, but like, it's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like, I want to play with like all the guys. Like, it'd be great. Obviously, we're doing some stuff where we get to play together online, but as everybody knows, online is not the same as in person. And like when Jason said that I want to play, like when you run Hyperborea, I want to play in that. And when Jason runs his Middle Earth Rangers game, I want to play in that. Like, I want to that sounds awesome to me. And yeah, I think we definitely should try to do that. Yeah, and it's always nice to have, like, my very first experience running for strangers was my friend Brendan, who owns Crossroad Games. They were coming up on their store's 20th anniversary. I had never run for people ever that I didn't know. The only exception is that is we would sometimes bring new people into our group. They were all vetted by somebody in the group. Like, I played with these two guys. I don't remember their names. But my friend Thad, who I grew up gaming with, they were friends with him, his roommates. He brought them into the game. So they were vetted. Not a big deal. I had never run for complete strangers before. And so for the 20th anniversary, my friend Brendan asked me if I would be interested in running a game, because they didn't have a lot of people that ran games the way I did. Not that I'm special, but I use like a lot of miniatures. I use like a lot of terrain and stuff. And I kind of leapt before I thought, and I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And I was like, "What the fuck did I just sign up for?" And so I did. I built this dungeon out, and I ran a session, but it was almost for all strangers, with the exception of my cousin, who doesn't live. He lives about an hour or so away from me. Um, he came down to play in it, and but I'd never run a game for him either. I just knew him because he was my cousin, and we talk about gaming all the time. But yeah, it was not, but it was nice to have just him. Like, I could look to him, and everybody was great, and the game was actually super well received. So the anniversary weekend is a 2-day event. I ran my game on Saturday, and then Sunday I went back to the shop because they're having sales and all this stuff going on all weekend. So I wanted to do some shopping, and it was packed, and like, guys that were in my game were talking to the other owner of the shop, my friend Brendan, his wife Chris. Then they saw me and they were like, "Oh, come here!" And then all of a sudden, I just started hearing all this like crazy good stuff about my game. I was like shocked. I was like, "Oh my god, oh, people actually liked it." That was great. But yeah, it was nice to have, though, like you were saying, just that one familiar face. Like, I'm like, okay. But then um, I kind of, was funny because I remember starting that game and I was like, "Hey, listen, folks." It was a fifth edition game. We were playing fifth edition at the time, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I may screw up some of the rules because I have about four different versions of this game in my head." So, and one of the guys who was a regular at running games at the shop, he was really good guy to have at the table too. He was like, "Just run it, man." And I was like, "Okay," and off we went. Hey, RPG Grandpa. Hey, buddy. I just mentioned you actually because I pulled out the Shadowed Keep on the Borderlands. I definitely want to get together with you and do a like a Raging Swan video, either however you want to do it, live or just a regular video. Um, Either is fine with me, but we should definitely figure out a time to do that. Battery on my phone dies, but I still got quite a bit left. I have so much beginning. Oh, lost for a second. My local shop there, Crossroads, had this weekend, so they always have like great deals going on. The yard sale, getting rid of old stock and stuff they've had forever, and they take in a lot of stuff. Um, God damn, I came back with so much stuff. Like I got a like Massive Darkness, the miniatures game. I got the core box of that, two extra boxes filled with miniatures. I bought some Warhammer miniatures. Um, I got the big thing with Warhammer is I said earlier they had a release a while back called Skaven Tide. It's a big, huge box set. I got a really good deal on it, and I bought that. I couldn't pass it up. Like it was such a good deal. I mean, but now it's just like hundreds of miniatures. They'll never all be painted, but like I like the Skaven. I really bought it for the Skaven because it had so many different units that I didn't have. Some that I did have. So, but that works out. Yeah. And then I got um, the new Necromunda skirmish book. Like I said, I got a 40K miniature that I just wanted forever. That was really cool. I don't even play 40K. I got a problem. And my son bought miniatures for me to paint to use in his future game. I'm just gonna be busy for a while. And I got my own other projects that I'm working on for various people that I mentioned before, Bloodworth and Emperor's Choice. Yeah, got all sorts of stuff to do. But this is good. Like it helps me get it done. Like I can sit here and chatting with you guys keeps me at the table. Like I usually get antsy and have to get up and move around, but with you guys, it's great. I don't have to. I don't have such an urge to do that. So I can bang out some work on these trees, some of this terrain painted. I got more stuff to paint though for this thing I'm working on, but trying not to get paint on my wife's dining room table so she doesn't murder me in my sleep. So gotta be careful. But like I got showed these before, but I got all this stuff I printed, these 3D printed hills stuff. I got to paint all those up. And I painted the tower. I painted the bridge that I need. I got those done right away, which was great. Nice thing about terrain is it just paints pretty quick anyway. So miniatures are a little bit slower, but probably going to work on that later. I got some stuff in the works for for uh, for Bloodworth that I'm working on, so I'll get back at working on that for him. Oh, the Dungeon Dwellers, yeah, those are good. I got a shitload of those behind me. Um, so here's just some loose ones as I rip stuff off my shelf. These came with the RPG. Oh, actually, they were extra add-ons for the RPG. The RPG came with a. I got a box full of miniatures, but like they have these extra fire beetles, which is something I didn't have. I like the like Dan will appreciate this. I think like I like the like more natural animals sometimes because like Hyperborea uses a lot of that stuff, and I like using that stuff. I mean, I ran a whole arc. If you haven't followed the recaps for our campaign, there was a whole arc dealing with like this brood mother, which was this giant, like sentient spider thing, and tons of spiders. I mean, my party is like they're 8th, 9th level, and I'm still using giant spiders and stuff like that. I love that stuff. So these are giant ticks. I got extra ones. So the cool thing about it, like in the Kickstarter, like the regular blister came with I think 3, and then the extra box comes with 6. So you have plenty of them. And then same thing, I got these giant centipedes. And again, there's 6. I have more in there. Yeah, our Crossroads caters to everybody, but they've over 27 years they've developed a really good gaming vibe there. I've run games. I ran that anniversary game, and then I went on to help run games there. We ran, like they started running. It happened. They started before COVID, and I was a player then. But they ran like true West Marches games, not the crap you see Critical Role calling West Marches. That's not West Marches. We ran true West Marches campaigns there, and then ultimately I ended up becoming one of the game masters that helped with that, and that was a ton of fun, ton of fun. The only problem player I ever had there. He was kind of like a rules lawyer. Um, he wasn't. He was a good guy. He played in that campaign I ran. He was a good guy. He was kind of a bit of a rules lawyer with the issue that he didn't know the rules as well as he thought he did. But I would play with him again. I would play with him again. He was a good guy. So it was really good vibe there. They don't have a lot of issues that I'm aware of. I'm sure they pop up occasionally, but like shellac the hell out of that thing and make sure it's dead. Yep. Yeah. I thought about doing stuff like that. Like you find like old bones and stuff out in the woods. I live rurally, so if I'm like out hiking, you find some. Yeah, I don't know how. Maybe I don't know if you like clean it up, like soak it in bleach or something. You want to make sure everything. Like I'm not one of the. This is one of my pet peeves in the miniature terrain hobby. Is you'll see people. They'll talk about using like natural, like they go out and collect bark for rocks and sand from outside instead of buying it. I do that all the time. Matter of fact, I prefer to do that because I can get it for free because I live in the middle of nowhere. Not really, but what you'll see is these people will talk about how you got to cook that stuff at 9,000 degrees for 4 days so you kill every parasite that's in it. That is such a load of horse shit. I've been doing that stuff for 20 years. I've never anything. If it survives multiple levels of paint, primer, flocking, whatever's in there deserves its own science fiction movie because it was going to live regardless. You don't have to do any of that. My good friend Matt that I game with, he does the same thing. He works in the outdoors, like he's a, I won't say what he does, but he works in the outdoors, and he's like, it's just not like that stuff. If it's already out there, like it's it's fine. You don't have to do all of that. It's just obviously you want to I scrape all the stuff down. I make sure like when I use bark for rocks and stuff, I'll make sure there's nothing in it, but I'm not cooking it for all that time. Yeah, it's crazy. It is completely nuts. Like it. I'm like, you people are wasting so much time and effort. You do not need to do that. What is even more crazy though is I've literally seen a blister pack, kind of like this, filled with real sticks for sale. I don't care where you live, unless you're in the middle of like the freaking Sahara, I guess, or the desert. You can't go outside and find some sticks, like a park or something. Like it is nuts. People are crazy. They get all worked up over a big nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's my thought. That's my thought. You know, it's like now I've been doing it. I'm not an expert. I never said I was, but you don't have to do that. It's foolish. It's a waste of time. And I have stuff that's over a decade old. No mutant insect has crawled out of it, or parasitic mold hasn't encased my house and eaten my family. It's good. Trust me, you'll be okay. Insane, but people do it. It's like okay, rock on with your bad selves. They get all worked up about it. Yeah, and like that's the thing I like about that too. I like about getting that natural stuff is it's free, right? Like I can just go out and grab it. Like I was having a discussion with on one of probably some Facebook forum page about terrain, and people were talking about like I was telling people about using bark or something, tree bark for certain types of tree bark for rocks and stuff. I was working when I was doing that. I was literally driving down the road. I look and I see this giant, big ass dead tree, and I pull over, rip off a freaking hunk of it. It was on public land, and threw it in a bag. I took a picture of it, posted there. Like, wow, that was fast. I'm like, I was literally driving down the road and saw this. I used to do that when I used to use that stuff um, a lot more. I just drive down the road. I'm like, oh, there's a tree I'm looking for. There's the bark falling off of it. Um, I just pull over and chunk a bunch of it into a bag and go to town. I have some of it in my basement right now. Hasn't eaten anybody. It's crazy. Hard to believe, really. Yeah, people are funny. making a tend to make issues out of things that don't need to be issues. And if you're going to buy, like I always tell people, if you're going to buy flocking, which some people will make it. I don't do that. Like they'll take, a lot of that stuff is just like chopped up foam and stuff. And it's probably easy to make, but listen, I have a tons of stuff to paint and I don't really want to make it. I'll just buy it. And what I tell people is don't buy like the Games Workshop or Army Painter or any of the miniature company flockings. Don't buy that stuff because you're getting ripped off. Because you're not getting go like you can go on Amazon or some other even their own web store. Like Woodland Scenics is a company that specializes in model train stuff, and I buy stuff from them because I can get a 32-ounce shaker of flock for like I don't know maybe $15 on Amazon. I order it through Amazon, and a little tub, not much, probably smaller than this thing, um, from like a gaming company is going to cost you probably close to the same amount, and you're getting a fraction. And if you're not doing terrain, if you're just doing miniatures, one of those shakers will last you a metric ton of miniatures. So it's much more cost effective to do it that way. If you're getting into the hobby and want to base your miniature, which is these aren't quite dry, which is a art form in it of itself. Some people overlook, and you can do different things with basing. Some people don't bother with it, and for some games that's fine, like a more neutral base. But I find for most of my fantasy stuff, I like to base them. And I've had miniatures that I didn't think were either great miniatures in quality, or that maybe my paint job wasn't really just winning me over. But then when I base it, it kind of like ties it all together, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like that actually turned out pretty good with the basing. But so depends. I mean, like I said, some people like. I think one of the things that WizKids did, which I generally don't like their miniatures, their character miniatures, but they started using clear bases, and I'm like, oh, that's cool because then you do have terrain. It kind of blends with all terrains. So I didn't mind those as much. I don't use the character miniatures very often, even as NPCs, just because I don't like them that much. I like their monster miniatures for the most part, but not their character miniatures. Maybe I should write that as a module, Dan. My first module about the mold that ate my family because I refused to bake a piece of tree bark for 4 days and 4 nights before I slapped it on a piece of MDF and used it as a rock. What nuts! They're nuts, I say. Is that what I wanted? No. Well, close enough. Close enough. So I talked about that earlier, Dirty Dwarf. Nobody's instantly great, but what I would say is if you want to start painting and you want decent results that you can get better at early on, I would watch videos about a technique called slap chop, which is basically a method on how you prep your miniature for painting, and then videos about using speed paints, contrast paints. Like all the big game companies now have something similar. They just give it a different name, and start with those because you can get pretty good results. I think fairly quickly, um, and that will encourage you hopefully to continue, and then you can expand on your abilities and your techniques and stuff. Um, Whereas like regular painting, I mean, people do it, but like it's a lot more. I think it could be a lot more discouraging. The biggest technique that you're going to need to learn with speed paints, and it's a great technique that carries across all painting, but with speed paints especially, is brush control because you don't want that stuff to go everywhere. Because once you prep that model, and if you get, you know, I don't have a great, I don't have a great example here, but so say take this thing. I probably wouldn't use speed paints on this, but Like I want to paint the top. The top's going to be like green. I would prep this. It wouldn't be prepped this way. It'd be prepped differently. I'd use green speed paint on top, but I wouldn't want to get it on the sides because I want the sides to be a different color, and that will throw it off. With regular paint, if you do that, you can always typically just paint over it. Speed paint doesn't quite work that way, but you can get good results really quick, and they look good on the table. I've met a lot of people, friends, people like when I was at CNY this year as a vendor. I talked to a lot of folks that were like, "Oh, I started painting, and um, but I suck and I quit." And I'm like, "We all sucked at first, I mean, these days I still suck. I'm like, oh god, it's awful. But nobody's good out of the gate. It's just something you got to put time into. But I would recommend slap chop your mini. And I have a video on my channel about it. It's not admittedly a great video because I'm an amateur at this stuff, like recording and all that stuff. Um, but it kind of shows you how to slap chop a mini, and then use. And there's another video where I actually start to paint it. I did them for my friend Jason asked about it, and so I did a little video, a couple of videos about it. I could do another one if people wanted. I'd go on live. I could show you how to do it. But there's tons of videos out there too that show it. And I almost quit using speed or contrast paints until I started slap chopping the miniatures, and then I got much better results, much better. And I still use them. Some stuff. I mean, I haven't with these, but when I have something like this, which is uh, almost 100% just dry brushing. That's pretty fast, so I don't bother. But you could do these. Some terrain I use speed paints on them. I've kind of stumbled into some stuff that by accident um, experiment with different colors. And I was like, oh, well, I'm basically slap chopping this building because it's stone and wood. And I did most of the stonework basically how I would have slap chopped something. To start with black, work up through different shades of gray, and then go in with different colors and stuff like that to kind of pick out details. And I accidentally stumbled upon using some speed paints to do the wood, and I was like, "Oh my god, this sped up my process so much." And they look fine, for what I'm doing. Um, yeah, I would try that. I would try that, and just don't get it's it's easy to get discouraged, but don't get discouraged because, like I said, the next time when I do one of these, like I'm going to try to schedule so I do these every Monday, because it doesn't seem like any of my friends are doing them on this day, so I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Um, and I'm usually doing nothing during the day on Monday, so I might as well paint with you guys. That'll be fun. Um, I can show you the first miniature I ever painted. It's awful. It's awful. We still joke about it at my guys in my group. You know, a sham. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, Dan. So you don't have to do it that way, but that's typically how it's done. So I'll prime something black, and then I'll dry brush it with like a dark gray, a lighter gray, and I'll usually try to do three. Like I'll do I'll have the black, a dark gray, a medium gray, and then a lot of times I'll use like a white to really pull it out. It depends on what I'm painting too. Like if I'm painting something that I want with darker tones, I might maybe I won't go as high as white. If I am painting something with a lot lighter tones, if I'm using like there's certain paints, speed paints or regular paints that are kind of a bear to use. Like if like I'm using like a red or a yellow, those are usually horrible colors sometimes. So what I'll do with those is I don't want to try to paint that over a black because I'll be there forever before it finally covers it up. Yep, you did like a zenithal. That's fine. Yeah, you can do that with speed paints too. I see people do that all the time. Few channels that I like that do painting stuff, like Peachy Tips. Peachy is a guy. He was a Games Workshop guy for many years. He does some really good stuff. And I what I like about Peachy stuff is it's very one. I just find like when I watch him like paint stuff, I find that kind of inspirational as far as like I just want to get. It makes me want to go get stuff done, like because he's painting for games that he's playing, and he does a lot of solo skirmish game stuff, story bait. He's doing stories and stuff. Um, so I like his channel a lot. I watch his stuff for painting, but I watch other people. Like I'll sometimes either if I bought a mini for myself or like a client has sent me a miniature that I'm not sure, like I don't know how this is gonna go. I YouTube is pretty vast, so I'll like look up that miniature and be like, how would they paint this one? And I'll get some ideas from that to 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 kind of get working off of. But yeah, you can do and what Dan's talking about is they call it a zenithal. I don't do that as much. I have some friends that do, but that one you just prime black, then you kind of go over like the high spots, like with a lighter color, like a white or something, and it kind of shows where the natural, like if the miniature's standing, like where the natural shadows would be. Um, yeah, that's perfectly fine, and then you could use speed paints on that or contrast or whatever. Yeah, he Professor DM. I mean, that's his whole thing is like getting stuff, just getting it on the table. Just and it all depends on what you're looking to do, right? Like that's typically what I'm doing. Like I said earlier, I don't consider myself a display piece painter. I'm a um, table ready guy. You know, maybe a little bit higher level than normal. I but that's what I consider. I don't consider myself a display painter. There's guys out there. I'm like, I see their stuff and I'm like, holy crap! Like I just want to throw my paintbrushes in the trash because they're so good. And I'll never be at that level, and that's fine. But I'm painting for the purpose that I need. And I explain that like with clients and stuff. I explain that to them. And most of my clients I've had. I mean, that's what they're looking for is, they're playing games. I got my start painting 40K miniatures for um, local guy that was, building a Dark Angels army. And, there was some stuff that he talked about and I was like, I can't do that. And then we figured out a way that I could get around doing it. But yeah, just figure out, define your use, what I tell people. Most of us, it's just for gaming. Right. So the other the other little trick for painting for gaming is judge it your miniature at an arm's distance. Right. What's it look like at an arm's distance? Because that's generally what it's going to be seen at. Right. It's going to be on the table. Your players are going to be around it. They're going to be looking at it from an arm's distance. They're not going to be up like this looking at it. I've had miniatures that I have really, really liked the paint job I did on. They look great. This one I actually ended up selling it, and it must have looked good because somebody wanted to buy it. But like I took a picture of it and then I zoomed in on it, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like this is awful." Like I could see like where it was, but at that proper distance, it looked great. It looked great. It wasn't, and that's a thing. Like I remember watching the making of like the Lord of the Rings movies, and they talked about one of the sets. I think it's Saruman's tower and the underground thing where they ran like a camera down through this set. And the set was so good that they could do that. But they did say typically they can't do that because the level of detail isn't good enough for it. But those were so good that they could. So most miniatures, if you like hold it up to your eyeball, you're like, oh my god, that's horrible. But if arm's distance, so everyone, you'd be painting, and you might get in your head like, oh man, this is just not coming out good, and then take it, hold it back at arm's distance where it's going to be seen. How's it look from there? You know, I do that. I have to remind myself of that sometimes because I'm like, oh my god, this thing's like really coming out like crap, and then um, it's not really though. It's going to be fine for what you're doing. But yeah, I would do that. I would start. I recommend a lot of new people just start with speed paints, and we're gonna do. Sounds like I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag or not, but we might be doing some painting stuff at next year's CNY. There's been talk of it between a few of us, so we might you might have if you're there, you might have opportunity to get some painting in. And listen to me prattle on. Yeah, one of the guys in my group, my friend Chris, like my friend Matt and I have always painted, like for a long time. But Chris started painting because of I think because of us. Like he saw us, and he was kind of interested in it, so he started doing it. And man, he got really good. I thought like really good, really quick. Like I've seen him. He's painted up some. Usually he paints up some stuff for his games. A lot of his games we don't use miniatures, but like some we have, and then but he's done like his own characters and stuff. And I've seen him paint up like some Whiz Kids miniatures. And like I said, I don't like the Whiz Kids miniatures because I find them very difficult to paint because they have way too much primer on them, and um, they're just not that great, especially the character miniatures. And he did a banger job on them, and I was like, wow. He So he got really good. I thought pretty quickly. He just and he'll tell you he's not fast. It takes him a while to get it done, but nobody's really fast when they start. Jesus Christ, what's this on? Put that on with a wrench. Here's a little tip. So the dropper bottles, they say don't plug. That's a lie. They do. All of them do. Don't be a Neanderthal like I am and like over squeeze them because you're gonna get more paint than you could really ever want. So you got to be patient. Now it's leaking. So I must have forced it. I just need a little bit of paint. Dang it. Oh, here we go. Now she's coming out. Good. And stubborn. But yeah, they just play around with it. Have some fun. My son, he hasn't painted much. He talks about getting into it, but he just never does. I wish he would because he's going to inherit a crap load of unpainted miniatures from me because I have more than I'll ever be able to paint. So I told him like, hey, unless you're going to get into the painting hobby, when my time is come and gone, you need to like keep what you want and then sell the rest of it because it's going to be laying around. I always start off the beginning of every year trying to get through my self shame as much of it as I can, and I do. I get a lot done, but it's never ending. We did some terrain making a little bit here and there, my son and I. The swamp board that you see sometimes in our recaps, he and I made that together when he was little. We got our mileage out of that board. That seems seen a lot of use. I should make another one. I can expand our boards a little bit, but there's a lot of things I should do. Mm. Dan's still here. He must have his Hyperborea game tonight. Cool. I'm not doing any gaming until hopefully I think Sunday. I check my calendar. I think Sunday. That Dragon Bane game. Session 13. Nice. Nice. I'm hoping I get to run some Hyperborea. You got some guys that want to play it. All my group would play it, but I know one has specifically mentioned it. And they already get like kind of a taste of the rules because I use a lot of the rules from it in my CNC game. So yeah, Hyperborea is good. I actually haven't played like a lot of the OSRs. Like I played old school Essentials. I played Dragon Slayer, CNC, even though they don't call themselves an OSR game, but it is. And I think is there anything else I played? Might be it. I played a little bit. I played Hyperborea. I didn't say that one. Oh shit, that's not good. Not paint, but my wife wouldn't like that either. Um, oh, that's not good. Hold on. Hold on, I have to prevent my murder. Need a bigger cover, I think. I was thinking about this actually, Dan, talking about Hyperborea. If I had a single complaint about Hyperborea, and this isn't really a complaint, it's more of like a wish. It's not a complaint, it's a wish. The one thing, like when I look at like Tales of Argosa, which I think is a really good, I haven't played it, but reading it, it looks like a really good sword and sorcery style game. The one thing that one of the things that I really liked about it was how magic worked in that game. I wish like Hyperborea had like that magic system in Tales of Argosa really felt like sword and sorcery to me. Where, yep, in Hyperborea there's different spells and stuff, but there's also a lot of the same spells. I wish there was like a different magic like feel, a little bit different, like go a little bit more away from the D&D, like more embrace like the weirdness of sword and sorcery can have, like truly give it that, like, magic is viewed with suspicion for a reason, because like you could be casting a spell and things go awry, and next thing you know, you got an arm that's a tentacle or something, like the evil, not evil, but it's dangerous and unpredictable. I like that about when I read the magic system Tales of Argosa. I was like, that is really cool. And I have this box set over here that my friend loaned me. My friend Matt, he got it through a Kickstarter. I'd never even seen it before, and I'm gonna. He loaned it to me so I could do a video about it. I'll do like a little unboxing video probably this week for it. But one of the things, it's a fifth edition. It's based on 5e, but the magic in it, like I think probably the system works the same, but like all the spells are different. Like it comes with like these cards, spell cards that are really nice. It's a really nice box set actually. It All the spells are different, and they're very much attuned to what the game, the setting is about. Really cool. Yeah, DCC is cool. I think just that. Um, I mean, we played DCC a little bit. My friend Chris runs it. I liked it. Um, I didn't play it enough where the magic got totally out of control, but it does have that variable power. The best art, DCC has some great art, but I love the art in the book. It is like shows the progression of the wizard. Like he starts off, he looks fine, then by the end, he's like this freaking mutant right out of like Warhammer. Um, yeah, but I like having that like where the magic is viewed with a little bit of suspicion. Like, oh, he's a spellcaster. Is he a good guy? They're leery of him for a reason. And as I get not older, maybe older, I guess, but like I play different games and get exposed to more stuff gaming wise. I really like to get away from. I mean, I like D&D, the not current D&D, but like the way the levels and all that stuff. But I also like other stuff. Like I like Dragonbane has no levels. I really like that. That has a different magic system. It's on points, and you spend points to cast magic. I really like that stuff more than just like, oh, here's magic missile. One of the things I like about Dragon Slayer actually is obviously it has like Vancian magic, but the stipulation in Dragon Slayer that you can't memorize the same spell more than once unless you have some magical means to do so. I like that because keeps you from just spamming the same spells over and over, like that. Like the that LARP video, that old LARP video shows a guy like throwing the things, and he's yelling magic missile, magic missile, magic missile. He just keeps throwing. I don't know what the hell he's throwing at that other player, but I like that in Dragon. And I've played two different casters in Dragon Slayer games, and I did not care that I couldn't. One was a wizard. I did not care that I could only memorize magic missile once. I didn't. I didn't care. Um, and Dragon Slayer, really like. If I'm playing a cleric now, I really like how the cleric works because the cleric can actually channel like first level spells. So I can only memorize if I wanted Cure Light Wounds once, but I don't memorize it because I can sacrifice first level spells to cast curing thing. It's great, but I can't do it with like the next step up in spells. It's only that Cure Light. But the other thing I really like about the Dragon Slayer curing spells is you get to add your level to the curing. It's great. So you don't often suck completely. Oh, that's cool. I'll get to probably experience that because I'm playing with him at ShireCon. I signed up for his BX game to try out. I like that rule. That may actually become a rule regardless of the games I run in the future. If they have like a Vancian magic style system, I may incorporate that rule, which will probably vex some of my players a little bit. But I remember at my first CNY, I asked Greg about. I kind of knew why he did it. I figured, and I was correct. He was like, it's just to force people to be more creative, and I get it. So you're not just, oh, I'm a heal bot, or I'm the magic missile, or I got 4 fireballs in the chamber. No, you got one, and then you got to figure out some other stuff you can do. I like that. It kind of forces players to be more creative with their spells. I mean, that's the thing I like about OSR style games where you don't have like a laundry list of special abilities you can do. Like you can do what you want. You just have to be creative and explain it to me as the game master what you want to do. And I'm going to tell you to roll something or not. And we move on from there. You don't have to have all this stuff that ultimately, in my experience, slows combat down to friggin' a crawl. I've played in multiple 5e games, and I don't want to get into a bashing thing, but like I've played a lot of 5e, and it was painfully slow combat. Like combat became my least favorite part of 5e. I played a high level wizard in the 5e game. I hated combat. One, I don't like how magic works in 5e at all, but I would just blast stuff. Like we walk into this area and there's like 30 kobolds over there, and I know we're facing bigger and badder things down the road. I didn't care. I'm like, this is gonna take forever. I just whack them with fireball, like waste a fireball. I'm like, poof, gone. I'm like, nope, we don't have to deal with this. Let's move on. Um, but yeah, but I like that variant magic. I like the mix up. I like that different. I like a little bit of difference in the magic. I don't mind Vancian magic. I mean, I'm playing a spellcaster in 2 different Dragon Slayer games, my most recent casters, and I don't mind it. But I do like that there's some difference. The thing I like about Dragon Slayer is he didn't just. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the same spells. The bulk of them are the same spells you see in D&D, but there are other ones too that are pertinent to like things in his own setting, which are neat. I like that stuff. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, Dirty Dwarf. I don't mind that either. I mean, I do like systems sometimes that give you a little more options as well. But like I was playing my cleric. I mean, it started off. I mean, I got bonus spells because I got lucky and had a really great wisdom, so I got a couple bonus spells. But those don't last forever. Like I got 2 spells. Yay me! I cast those, and then the rest of it I was mixing it up, and as a cleric, so I was a little better off combat wise than like a wizard would be, because I could still get in and do melee or ranged stuff. Um, yeah, I don't do that. The one I do is read magic. That's just an ability they have in my if your system has cantrips, at best it's a cantrip. If not, for me, it's It's just an ability that they learned through apprenticeship. They learned how to read magic. It makes no sense to be a first level like it's stupid in my opinion. You're a first level wizard and your only spell is you have one spell and it's read magic. That's a skill you should have as a wizard, in my opinion. That's how I've always run it. Um, Even for like players in my game, that's how I run it. And then the games I play in, that's typically how we run it. We don't. It's kind of silly. I know, Dan, you were saying the other day on our messages there that you were thinking about using CNC for your next part of your campaign that you're running. I like CNC. I know we've knocked it on the stream a few times, and it does have its issues. One of the recommendations I would use though with CNC is keep it to the core books, like the Adventurous Spellbook. That thing is so out of control. Like there's my guys use it. I let them start using it before I was really aware of like how probably unbalanced it is and like probably not even play tested. I mean, there's spells like they're using now, and I let it continue only because really now one I have the precedence that I did use it, but I really right now only have 3 players, so they don't have like arcane support, and so there's spells in there that our cleric is using that I if it was a full group, I'd be like, nah, probably not allowed. And I did talk to him about that once I realized how kind of whack that book is and spots that I would like, hey, we need to have a talk about any spell that you're pulling from this book because it may not be something we're going to use. But I let him do it because now we're down to 3, and that actually came up in our last session. We actually, my friend Matt who plays him said that something, and so they don't have that support. So I've letting it slide. If I was to run CNC again, it would be the core books, and that's it. That's it. And CNC's been good for us. I don't want to, I know sometimes we talk about it on the stream, and I don't want to sound like it's been good. I mean, it got us back to more OSR style gaming from a lot of years of like from 3rd edition Pathfinder to 5th edition, and I'm glad we returned to those roots. But I like my next if I run like one of the games, I think I'm always thinking about what my next campaign is going to be. Um, I would, I mean, I really like Hyperborea, obviously, but if I wanted to run high fantasy D&D style, probably the system I'm going to use is Adventurers Dark and Deep with some modifications. Yeah, those covers are great, D&D Dad. Those are great. Um, I'm probably going to switch to if I go high fantasy in my own setting, D&D style. It's probably going to be Adventurers Dark and Deep with a couple changes. I really like what I've seen in that system. Hyperborea is awesome. I mean, Hyperborea is freaking awesome. I mean, the bulk of my rule changes for my CNC game have been using Hyperborea rules. You know, in the last session, the guys wished I was using the Hyperborea crit tables because they kept rolling crits, and I was doing the same thing. I kept rolling crits, but then I used one of the variant crit tables that they have for Hyperborea, and you roll a crit, and then you roll again to see what the result is, like damage modifier or whatever. And I was doing it; they were doing. We're all rolling like super low, so you were getting like nothing out of your criticals. They were like mostly just normal hits. They were like, "Oh, I wish we were using the Hyperborea ones because they're good. They're very simple to use, but they're good." Yeah, Hyperborea is great. I wish there was a. I mean, it'd be easy enough to do, but like if there was a high fantasy version of Hyperborea, that would definitely be my go-to. I need to. I say I don't want to add more games to my collection, but Swords and Wizardry comes up a lot, and I need to check it out. But I have so much stuff. Like I don't need another OSR game to be honest. Adventures Dark and Deep. I initially bought for the bestiary, um, which is awesome. I use that bestiary more than I use the Monsters and Treasures book because it has everything in it, and Joe didn't rename stuff to avoid the OGL, so I can easily find what I'm looking for. Unlike Monsters and Treasures, I do like the treasure tables in Monsters and Treasures. I think that was done well. So I got the bestiary first. I like bestiaries anyway, and I have a big collection of them. And then I ultimately got the core book, the full book, and I like it. I would change a few things if I run it as my next system. There's an optional rule in there for using ascending armor class. I would use that. I don't mind descending, but I don't want to, as that book is written, consult multiple different charts. Like ascending is just easy, and my group doesn't mind either. I mean, we use descending and Dragon Slayer. It's fine, but I would use ascending armor class, and I would not use the initiative system the way it's written. I would use the one we're currently using, which is basically simple and fast. It's group initiative that we roll every round. Our group really likes it. We've using it for 5 years. It's added a lot of tension to our games and our combats, um, and it's fast. It's super fast. So I would stick with it. I don't. Let me scroll back up here without trying to screw this up. I wanted to see a comment. Yeah, I have all the stuff for. Well, I have all the rule books for Adventures Dark and Deep. My first book I ever bought was the Book of Lost Tables. I bought it at my very first ShireCon. Joe Block was a vendor there, and I bought it off him. The books, Adventure Dark and Deep books that I have now weren't out then. And then he showed the bestiary off on a stream. I didn't back the Kickstarter, and then I was like, oh, I got to have that book, and I bought that. And then I liked what I saw, and ended up getting his core book. And I backed the Book of Lost Lore 2, which is just more added on some classes, and, other stuff. It really seems like a really good book. You have like demon worshipping clerics and stuff, so they're not just copy and pasted clerics that are evil. A little bit of tonal difference to them, I think, is really good. There's a necromancer class, there's a witch, some druid variants that I thought were neat, and there's like domain play stuff in there, like building strongholds and stuff like that. It's a real good book, and it's the last of his rule books for a while. I also got the Swords of Wuxia book, which is his Oriental Adventures. His is based on China instead of like the original. I think was based on Japan. This one's based on Chinese mythology. I usually don't go for Oriental Adventures. I actually don't even like monks in my game, but something came up in my current game that made me kind of want to look at that. So I ended up getting that book, and there's some good stuff in it that if my game ever goes in like this direction, I'll have some stuff ready for it. And I also got the I think it's called Swords of. Is it called Swords of Cthulhu? What the hell is it called? It's basically his Cthulhu book. Ah, God, I'm old. Yeah, Swords of Cthulhu. I got that book as well. Come on, bitch. Terrain everywhere. So I picked up these two books at actually this year's CNY. Joe was a vendor there too, so I got Swords of uh, Swords of Cthulhu and the Swords of Wuxia. So good books, good stuff in them. He's got like the Cthulhu books got like mythos monsters in it, and you know mythos tomes and stuff like that. Just some really neat stuff. that you can add into your game. So with these books, like between these two books, um, the two core books, and um, Book of Lost Tables and the Book of Lost Lore, man, pretty complete game. Pretty complete game. Yeah, I really like group initiative. We did, 5e, we did individual. I don't know if we, I don't remember if we did it round by round. I don't think we did. So it was kind of static. Group initiative, I don't even remember actually, probably from maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it was from CNC. I mean, we started doing it with CNC campaign, so it's probably a CNC rule. I don't know if we're following it exactly. I'm not a rules as written guy. I'm a rules as what works guy for my group. Um, but we started doing it, and it has been awesome. We've had so many combats that were like even the one I haven't put my recap up for this past week session, but there was a one big fight in that session, and it was a freaking nail biter, and the initiative rolls were not going the party's way, and to the point where we all thought like one of the NPCs with them was going to get killed, and it was only through the intervention of one of the characters that it didn't happen. But it's been real like we've had plenty of combats where they were like they say out loud they're like we roll initiative and it's kind of become a game within a game. We roll initiative and the guys are like, we need to win initiative this round or we're going to die. Like, or the, certain characters are going, or the party's going to die. It added so much more attention to the game sessions that uh, I don't want to switch from it. So, and, even Joe will say, like, I've heard him talk about like Adventures Dark and Deep. It's a crunchy system, but he's like, you don't have to use everything. So I will definitely keep the initiative system that we're using. Yeah, you take Pathfinder 1E, 2E, or like 5E, the combats are terribly long. And the more powerful you get, the worse they become. The best example I saw of this is we wrapped up a couple 5E campaigns in our one of our gaming weekends, and the combats are just, I mean, I've seen a round of combat take 45 minutes to almost an hour to complete. Well, and I have a big group. Like our group kind of broke 5e. There was a lot of times there was 8, sometimes 9 of us players, not counting just me or our game masters. So we're breaking the game's not geared for that. So we broke it there. But the combat is just so painfully slow. And so we ran that. And then the following day, I ran my CNC campaign for the same amount of players, and combat rounds were like that. It's not because I'm a better game master. I'm not. The system is faster that way. It's the OSR games are so much faster. They're not slogs, and like I said, people and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here because everybody here plays OSR games, but if somebody watches this, it doesn't. Um, it's just people get that idea because they look at their character sheet and there's only like a few lines on there, and there's not a lot of I can't do this, I can't action surge and reactions and blah blah blah. I can't do anything, and it's not true. Like, you can do whatever you want. You just need to explain it to the game master, and he's going to tell you what to roll. And but one of my players, the guy that plays Barry the Wizard, my buddy Dave, he was the biggest guy in my group that was like hesitant about switching to CNC. He thought all the characters were going to be cookie cutter because they didn't have these laundry lists of abilities and stuff. And he was very skeptical going into CNC about playing it. But he did what you should do, and he gave it a fair shot. And then he became like the biggest proponent of it. And I can be a bit of a complainer. I try not to be a complainer with no solution, but like I was the first guy I think in my group that really started vocally complaining about fifth edition, and we had like 3 different 5e games going on, sometimes 4. And I started seeing the weaknesses, like the things I didn't like, like slow combat, overpowered characters, and stuff like that. And I was vocal about that stuff. I'd never telling like our other GMs when dump your game. Or I never did that. I would never do that. But it was funny because my buddy Dave, after we played CNC for a while, he said to me, he's like, you were right about all your complaints. He saw, he got to see those finally. And then when he got to experience a different game, he was like, oh, and that's what happened to me. Like there was things I didn't like, but when I started playing Call of Cthulhu during COVID, I was shocked at like how much actual tension was in that game. I mean, I was with a unicorn group of players and game masters, but I was very fortunate that it all came together the way it did. But um, I was just shocked at how much tension was in the game and legitimate tension. Like holy crap, this is you know I just never felt that either running 5e or as a player. It just very rarely ever happened, and I wanted to get away from that. Like I wanted that. I really liked that feeling of like oh crap, that this is going to happen. Um, so I playing other games exposed that for me. Really sold it. So yeah, um, like I said, most preaching to the choir, everybody here, is on board. But like if you're watching this, like be willing to play other stuff. Like you'll learn a lot about you'll actually grow as a player. I think if you just play one system, you become fairly same as like playing one character class. I have friends that do that. My buddy Dave, he loves to play wizards. I try to play everything. Like if I get a chance to play, I mean I have stuff I like, I'm look at me. I like to break stuff and kick down doors and do all that stuff. So like I like playing characters that do that, but I also like to try to play different characters. Like I'm not an overtly religious person, but I like playing clerics. I like paladins. I think are awesome. It's one actually fifth edition class in original 5e that I really liked. The rest of them by the end I didn't really care for, but I did like the paladin. I got to see high level play in paladins in one of the campaigns I ran. My buddy Chris played an awesome paladin character that was great. Um, but yeah, but just be willing to try different things. I get bored. I wouldn't want to play like my next game. Yeah. Oh, a Dragon Slayer game. If something happened to my cleric, I wouldn't play another cleric. I would play something different. I mean, even though we really need a cleric, I would still play something different because it helps you. Like you get a better perspective on the games, and you just get. I think you grow as a player, or you get a better understanding of the play and everything. You start to see the games a little bit differently. Running around, bound to forget something here. Yeah, exactly, Dan. Like if they just look at it without trying it, they're like, "Oh my god, I can't do anything." Yes, you can. What do you want to do? And it has such a simple, typically such a simple mechanic. It's like, oh, I want to run over there and jump off this balcony and grab the chandelier and swing across to the other balcony. All right, give me a strength check. Roll under your strength. Or if you want to make it more complicated, roll under half your strength or whatever. Oh yeah, you succeed. Boom. And you can describe it. You can instead of like trying to decipher some rule or you can narratively like describe what happened. Like yeah, tell me how that happens. The other thing I like to do, I picked this up from my first Call of Cthulhu referee, my friend Kirk, unbelievably good referee. I was locked into D&D style mindset coming into Call of Cthulhu, and I played one character that was like basically a thief, and so his job was to like sneak around and scout and stuff like that. He sucked in combat, but he was good at that stuff. And I would roll like a stealth roll, and I'd succeed. I did really well. There's degrees of success in Call of Cthulhu. And he's like, okay, what's that look like? And I'm thinking like D&D terms, like, okay, I got 30 feet. Now I got to roll. And he's like, no, you got into the building. Tell me what that looks like. And so I got to describe like how I got in. I climbed up the second story, got through a window, found a lab coat, put that on to kind of blend in. And so what I started doing then is I stole that. Like when I'm running like CNC or any like D&D style game, we got to cross this room. It's 100 feet wide. It's going to require, per the rules, 3 checks. No, it's not. No, it's not. Roll. Give me a roll. Oh, you passed. Great. You get to the other side of the room. because it's just stupid. It just becomes a numbers game where if I have to make like have sometimes there's a wide expanse, like they have to sneak across or whatever, using that as an example. You're going to fail. Like the numbers are against you, right? Like if I have to roll 10 checks, you're going to fail. And that's boring. Like that's boring. If something comes in and changes that variable, like all of a sudden like a patrol pops up, okay, give me another one. But if you're just, just do it. Go. Move on to the next thing. Like just move the game along. Like rolling 10 checks for the same friggin' thing is just to me it's foolish. I know it's not rules as written and I'd get, you know, crucified on the OSR cross, I guess, but I don't care. Like I want my games to run faster and smoother and make more sense. Sometimes not. I'm obviously very much an OSR guy, but fan of those style games. But I'm also there's some modern things that you can bring in. I think to make those games even better. Oh yeah, I've seen that. What game was it? It isn't Hyperborea that does that, is it, Dan? I've seen somebody do that. Like I've seen a game where they recommend that you roll 3d6 and get under your or roll d and get under your attribute. That's a cool mechanic. I like that too. No, I didn't think so. I've seen that in a game somewhere. I don't remember which one. They talked about doing that. I won't be able to remember it until probably the middle of the night. I'll wake up and be like, damn it, it's that one. I think that's a good way to do it too. I got introduced like playing Dragon Slayer at OSRCon this year by a game run by Tom Wilson. He introduced like we were doing the roll under for Dragon Slayer, but if it was super hard or it was harder, he would make us do it at like half our ability. And I was like, oh, that's good. You can introduce like the degrees of difficulty. I thought that was really neat, and we're using it now. I brought it back, and when we were playing Dragon Slayer with my son, there was times when he was making us do that too, like checking it. Yeah, that's right, Paul. I'll be shunned. Dingy basement across the country. I play in a dingy basement now. I'll get kicked out of my own basement. Yeah, I just think sometimes, like I was saying earlier, like our Dragon Slayer game, we got rid of race class restrictions. Not game breaking. It gives us a little bit more options and variety. We don't do um, like level restrictions. I never really used those. I never really had anybody play. If we played demi-humans when we were playing like AD&D and stuff, I think we were all demi-humans. Yeah, yeah. Maybe one game like I was a half elf and the other guy I was playing with, he was a human or whatever. But we never really got hung up on that stuff. It just, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't a big enough deal to to you know to worry about. And by not doing it, we didn't notice any. My basement is filled with stuff, but it's not the nicest place. I mean, I try to keep the gaming area nice, but it's something. But we get a lot of good games in down there. Sometimes we play in this room. Actually, with the group now, I could play in this room. When my group was at full strength, playing in the room I'm in now was not fun because it was just too many people, and this isn't a very big room. But with what we have now, and likely come winter, we will be playing in here because where we play in the basement, my furnace, which is old as fuck, is loud and it'll kick on and it just. I didn't realize it when I had my big group and we were playing down there. One of the guys would sit at the far end, and one day he was, "Yeah, I can't hear," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I just figured it was because he was old and stuff. And well, come to find out, I was listening. I was setting up stuff one day, and I was at the far end of the table, and I had like audiobook on or something, and the furnace kicked on, and my phone was at the other end of the table, and all of a sudden I couldn't even hear my phone. I was like, "Oh no, shit! He can hear down here. This friggin' furnace is killing it." So with only four of us at the table right now, I will likely move our winter games up here so we don't have to deal with the furnace as much. It'll be that way unless we get a bunch of guys back. which I hope we do. I hope they come back before the campaign's over. We'll see. Be nice to have them there for the wrap up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try. I like that. I may have to try that. Yeah, I like that. I said I saw that or something very similar in a book, and I cannot remember what book it was. At least I think it was a book. I don't know. I'm old. I do like that rule though. Uh oh. Get all those. Yes, I do. Why not dwarves shun magic for religious reasons? Are you saying why not for race class restrictions? I actually played a dwarven magic user in fifth edition, and it's so the way fifth edition's broken a little bit in some regards is like in fifth edition you can't cast in armor unless you're proficient in it. Well, dwarves come are naturally proficient in medium armor, so I literally ran around in plate mail or whatever the hell it was, breastplate as a dwarven magic user, kind of like exploiting their crappy rules. Not that it helped him much. He still got his ass kicked a lot physically. But. I think I'm the only one in our group that's done that though. Like most other people, I mean, we've had people play dwarf. We have a dwarven cleric. Um, yeah, we've had. That was an elf. She was an elf. She was a fighter. But yeah, it doesn't come up a lot for us. And it just opens things up. It's really like the OSR games. It's like using Dragon Slayer as an example. It's like, well, like I have this idea that a campaign idea that I want to run like an all dwarf campaign. What am I gonna have? Like, especially when I had 8 players, we're gonna have 8 players and 3 classes. Like that doesn't. That's not any fun. Like, or I mean, we need a few more options than that. So I would just play it so you could play all of them. Hasn't broken anything yet. Not yet, anyway. Well, I got more trees done, which is great. Well, I say done. They're all going to get. Actually, they're not. They look dead, but they're actually going to get a full canopy on them. I don't have the material to do that yet, but when I do, in another week or so, I'll have that stuff, so I'll be able to do it. But I now have more of them done. I just have these little scrawny bastards left. And I actually got 3 of those painted too, which is nice. I think I printed like 8 of them. Like a crack addict with a bad habit. I got that 3D printer, and actually, the last few days I haven't printed anything, but it was pretty much a 24/7 operation when I first got it. Now I'm kind of like being a little bit more selective with my projects, but I actually found the files um, I've been looking for because there's some stuff I wanted to print and I wanted to buy, but like by the time I bought it all off Etsy, I could have funded a brand new 3D printer. So I'm like, I found the prints, so I will be purchasing those prints as soon as I can. What am I doing? Sorry. As soon as I can, and then I'll be printing that stuff next. I'm looking forward to that. It was early conventions like dwarves not using magic. Yeah, that should go. That and dwarves going. I don't know how it started, but it's gotta stop. Oh yeah, yeah. It's nice to vary it up a little bit. I like dwarf. I mean, I'm kind of a traditionalist in that regard with dwarves. I mean, they don't have to. I don't. I'm not much of an accent person because I stink at them. But honestly, like I've kind of gotten away from that too. Like if you like some of the stuff I've listened to, um, like the one of my favorite series, book series to listen to on Audible is the Gotrek and Felix books from Warhammer. And to me, like Gotrek is like more of what I think of when I think of a dwarf, and he does not have a Scottish accent. Like he he is if you've ever either read or listened to those books, um, again, Jonathan Keeble narrates them. He's awesome, and yeah, Gotrek is Gotrek, and he's not a typical Scottish dwarf running around. Yeah, I don't know. Like I know people say that. I've never used those. I've never used weapon speed. Probably used casting, but it's so long ago I don't remember. But I don't know our play style now. Like I was saying earlier, probably before you got on, Paul, that like my next system, if I run a D&D style system in my own setting, it'll probably be Adventures Dark and Deep. And one of the first things I'm not going to use is the initiative system because it's I just want it to be faster. And I get it, it's just but like the system we use, I'm not saying it's the best, but it's been the best for our group that we've used. Everybody enjoys it. It's added a lot of tension to the game and it moves fast, which is what I want. I don't want any. I'm not a numbers guy, so like I've really enjoyed what we're doing. So I've never used. I've had other friends that have used weapon speed and all that stuff. I understand that it does make sense as far as like certain weapons would move faster than other weapons, and um, yeah, I get that. But I probably don't see myself switching to something like that. Oh, these need some brown. That's why I didn't paint these. That one needs to be brown. One's okay. Missed a spot with some primer on these things. Oh, that one definitely not. That one I can probably get away with painting. And yeah, all right, that one needs some brown. The next question is, do I have any brown up here? But I think a lot of it too is like you got to build. Like if you're gonna change your rule set and stuff like that, I have no problem, no issue with doing that. Like I said, I'm not a rules as written guy. I'm a rules at what works for my group guy. But then that's the thing. Like, I'm building or tweaking a system. Tweaking is a great word. I'm tweaking a system. Like I've tweaked Castles and Crusades to something that really works for my table. Like I've had my players say, "Oh, I like all the stuff that you changed." Like I've adopted a lot of Hyperborea um, into my Castles and Crusades game, and the guys really like those changes. They like those improvements, changes. So it's like they were improving it for us, which is what I guess I'm in favor of. Some tables are, oh, where rules is written, and great. I've only seen one game. I've actually only played the only game I'm aware of. Maybe Call of Cthulhu, but like Dragonbane's the only game I've played at rules as written, and I actually don't see a need to change anything in it. Like um, the amount I've played it, which is not inconsiderable. I have quite a few sessions of it, well over 60 or so, I think. It just works for me. I really like that. If I'm not running this one, yeah. Oh, what are we doing? All depends on. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And I think there's just different ways of achieving that interesting nature of it. Like I tend to sometimes include like a lot of like or like narrative elements in our game. Like we'll handle things narratively, like just to speed things along and to kind of paint a better picture. Like a recent session, they were attacking a hobgoblin outpost, and it started off with a spell from the cleric. We did roll for damage for that to see how much damage he did to the palisade and the front gate. But then there was a follow up attack by paladin riding a dragon. I didn't roll any dice for that. He just did she did a couple strafing runs, and we narratively handled that and moved on. And then we got into more of the meat of the game, where it's closer and personal combat, and we went back to rolls. There was one attack roll on some hobgoblin archers where a giant killed two of them in one blow, just because I'm like, I'm not gonna spend all day on this like this, and my for my players, they like that stuff because they get to do that too. So it's um, that works for us. Other groups, I'm sure it wouldn't work for. Yeah, I like Vesson a lot, Paul. I've run it. I liked running it. I've played it. I haven't played. Before I say this, I don't think I've played anything beyond like an adventure, like a few sessions. And same with running it. I really liked it. I mean, you obviously you have the possibility with the free league, the Year Zero engine, and getting broken and all that stuff. And it's a possibility, but yeah, it is really cool. Like, and I like the folklore aspect of it. And now they've branched it out a little bit where you have you know the vampires and the werewolves and all that stuff. Um, yeah, it's a good game. That's a good game. I have all the Vesson stuff. Um, yeah, it's a little bit like COC. Call of Cthulhu is really great. One of my favorite games. I've done both regular and pulp. I like pulp. Sometimes people kind of knock on pulp because it's easier. I mean, we lost plenty of characters and pulp, so it's not that much easier. You're a little bit more durable, but you're not going toe to toe with elder gods or even mythos creatures very well. So even with pulp, you just might survive just a wee bit longer, but that's about it. Yeah, great game. Um, Vesson is one that I would like to on my list of things. I think it was on my top 20 or whatever we did there on the show. Um, to get back to the table at some point would be play some Vesson. Um, I really enjoyed it. But like conversely, I also got a chance to play, and I've mentioned this on our live stream before, but I got a chance to play um, Candela Obscura, and I thankfully played it with an awesome game master. My friend Chris, she really likes like the spooky stuff. She's really good at like creepy and like developing all that stuff. And she wrote a one shot for us that basically I think it took us 3 or 4 sessions to finish because I was in a that unicorn group of role players, and we just really dove into it. That system sucked though. That system's awful. Um, like the game was great because I had a blast because she was such a great game master, and my players were that I played with were awesome. But that system sucks. I mean, like my whole thought with it was like, as we were playing, I'm like, this isn't. We could be doing the same thing with either Call of Cthulhu or Vesson. I felt the same way. I played one session of Old Gods of Appalachia too, and it was a great game. Great game master, awesome game master. He's my guy that introduced me to Call of Cthulhu. My friend Kirk. But I'm like the system. I was like, we're not doing anything different that we couldn't do with Basin or Call of Cthulhu. Like it just wasn't for me, I guess. I'm gonna have to end this soon. My battery on my phone is almost dead. Almost. I can bang out more base coats on these trees, and then get some lunch. We got gym tonight. I get back to the gym, and then I do some painting tonight. I gotta work on some Bloodworth miniatures. I'm painting for him. Conan miniatures, and yeah. Yeah, I didn't really. I've listen to the old. I need to actually get back to it because it's really good. Like the Old Gods podcast. The setting is awesome, but mechanically, yeah, it didn't blow my skirt up. Like I would rather been using Call of Cthulhu or Vaesen. Those are kind of my go-tos for like horror games. There's more out there, like science fiction. Like I played Mothership. Mothership was I had a lot of fun with that. I played that a few times. That does a very good. Delta Green is another one. I mean, that's a little bit more specific, like your, you know, as far as the premise of it and stuff. But it's a great game. I thought I played it. I just actually finished up adventure for it. My friend Kirk ran for us, and I played. My friend Nate, one of the guys I trained with at the gym, he ran some Delta Green for us. I wish we'd get back to it, but our schedules kind of scattered that game, unfortunately. That was a lot of. We were having a lot of fun. And that was with a group of people I'd never played with before. We just all knew. We were all pretty much from the gym, except with one guy. It was one guy who was his very first role playing. This guy that joined us, and he had never played role playing games before, table games, and his intro was Delta Green, which was awesome. Um, so we had that, and then yeah, I wish we'd gotten back to that. That was a fun game. They're a fun group to play with too. I've been lucky, like I mean, it's kind of petered down a little bit now, but like I was in like a bunch of groups, and all of them were like more role play focused. Like it was, I mean, you play like a game like Delta Green or Vaesen or Call of Cthulhu, those games especially, like you need to be, I think, a little bit role play focused because they're not combat heavy games. Or if they are, you're in trouble. I mean, you could run like Vaesen as like a monster of the week game if you wanted, which is if that's what your group wants, that's fine. It was funny when I was working. I worked at a local convention this year, and I was talking to this young girl that um, she was telling me she was getting ready. She was going to run. Yeah, yeah, I bet. I haven't read any of them. I've only been a player in Delta Green, but she was telling me she was getting ready to run Call of Cthulhu, and I was like, oh, that's awesome because like it kind of made me happy to see all like these young people like getting into these other games that weren't like fifth edition D&D, you know, branching out to other games. So this young girl's going to run Call of Cthulhu for her friends, and one of her friends was there, and her friend had never played any role playing games. So we were talking, and she's like, yeah, I got this one player though. One of her friends that he played a lot of like D&D and stuff, and he's like, yeah, he basically thinks he's going to play it like D&D, and I'm like, he's not gonna live very long. And and I was like, I told the girl that was going to be a player in the game that had never played any games. I'm like, well, here's my advice to you: any plan that he suggests, you should do the polar opposite of, because that guy is going to get your character. You're probably going to die or go insane anyway, but like he's going to speed that process up quite a bit by playing it like D&D because it is not D&D. Um, and I know, like I came from like playing a ton of D&D to being playing Call of Cthulhu, and there was definitely I learned the differences really quick, really quick. Oh goodness. Yeah, I've heard that too about the modules. Like everybody's like, oh, they're really good to read and interesting. Like I said, I've never run it. I don't even own it. I haven't bought it. Every time I usually go to buy it, it's out of stock. But I need to buy less games at times, so I'm like, it'll be okay not having it. If it was something we were playing on the regular, I would get it, but we are not. We are not. If it's a long term like thing we're going to play often, I got no problem buying it because it just helps to have another book at the table. But if you need it, or in between sessions, and if you need it. One game I've actually been looking at, and I'm late to the party on this game, but is the oh crap, we just went on my Shadow of the Demon Lord. That's a game I've been looking at lately. I have the PDF for it, and I'm thinking about ordering the book because I'm not much of a PDF reader. I prefer to read actual books as much as I read them anyway. But I like the premise of that game. Like I've had this post-apocalypse or near, demon threat idea in my head for a little bit. As far as a campaign, maybe it'll just be a little short adventure or something. But I don't know. I might pick that book up. I like that it's where some of its inspiration came from, like old Warhammer and stuff like that. Yeah, I like that. Making progress. I got five. Five of these little ones left to finish painting. If I can do that. Oh, nice. Yeah, I want to at least get the core book to check out. And what happened with me is I saw some miniatures that I was like, oh, I need to do something with these guys. What about like a, demon cult or something? I don't know. And that's how a lot of my stuff gets started. So I got searching around, and I've heard of it. I just never really looked into it because I used to be pretty myopic about my games. Like, I heard about Castles and Crusades when it released. I was playing third edition, but it wasn't D&D, so I wasn't going to play it. That is a horrible mindset, and I'm glad I grew out of it because I would have missed out on a shite ton of really awesome games if I had kept up that nonsense. So yeah. So I've heard of Shadows of the Demon Lord. I've seen people talk about it. There's the other one, the Weird Wizard one, and all that stuff. I'm more interested in the Demon one, but like I said, I have the PDF and I've been looking through it, and it looks cool. I have like a right behind me. I have a decent sized collection of like old Warhammer Second Edition. I know Robert Schwab wrote a bunch of stuff for that, so it was very much inspired by some of that, tone. Old Warhammer is one of my favorite settings too. So after all the Skaven I got this weekend, I was like telling my son, he said, we might wind up playing Warhammer Fantasy for our next campaign, so I can use all these. I mean, I can use them anyway, but we can put them to use, more use, because I have a bunch of Warhammer miniatures. Darker in here? It feels like it did. Weird. Losing my shit. Yeah, I want to check that game out though. Yeah, I try to do that too, Dan. Like, I try to play something different. What am I doing? Or yeah, and I am doing that. Like ShireCon, I'm playing. I'm signed up for not totally different. Some of it's like I want to play with like certain people, and so like I'm playing two games with Robert Conley, who I've met at ShireCon, and I was on a stream with him with Bloodworth one time. I mean, he doesn't know me from Adam, but he's a super nice guy. I have his book, setting book Black Marsh that I bought at ShireCon from him, and a book about how to make sandbox settings. I read the Black Marsh book. It's not super long, but it's like cover to cover. Really cool little setting. Like you could play some fun games there. Um, so I signed up for two games with him. I wanted a chance to play with him. I'm playing BX, which I haven't played pure BX in a long time. I'm playing with Eric Tenkar, and then I am going to play a AD&D game with a guy named Anthony Merida, who is the organizer for OSR Con. So I was looking, yeah. I've tried different games. Like last year at ShireCon, I played Against the Dark Master, and sometimes you learn things. Like I learned that is not the system for me. Like it's way too crunchy, and the game master was great. The table was great. Me and Bloodworth played it together. The artwork in that book is freaking awesome. but it's not the system for me. I learned that, which was great. Um, my first time ever playing Shadow Dark was at ShireCon, in a game run by Bloodworth. Matter of fact, I think that was the first time Bloodworth and I ever met in person. Like we knew each other from YouTube because we're travel the same circles and follow each other's channels, and I mean help promote each other's channels. Not that he needs my help, but I definitely appreciate his. Um, yeah, so I played in a game run by him. I played in several games run by. I played Fallout for the first time at last year's CNY, run by Bloodworth. Really good. Yeah, being a late comer to conventions, I'm a big fan. Like I'm really enjoying going to at least the ones that I've kind of landed into, like CNY. CNY is just awesome. ShireCon's awesome. Have a great time. I'm going again this year. It'll be my third. I think my third. I think my third. I'll have to look at my tags. Um, I went to OSRCon this year. Was its first year. Just a 1 day con, but down in Mass, a couple hours from my house. Had a lot of fun. Got to play Dragon Slayer with Tom Wilson and Hyperborea with Jeff Talanian. Um, I would have signed up for Jeff's game at ShireCon. I played with him the last couple years there, but I think he's running the same adventure, so I didn't sign up for that. My only bummer was usually at ShireCon, there's other people, like a bunch of other people running Hyperborea, and I didn't see those this year. I was going to sign up for those games because it's my chance to play Hyperborea. I didn't sign up for Bloodworth's game, but I almost did. But I ended up at the last minute signing up for 10 Cars BX game because I mean part of that was 10 Cars obviously a big BX guy, and I wanted to experience firsthand how he runs it. So, and I've hung out with Eric before at CNY and ShireCon last year and stuff. He's a good dude. We have come from a similar background, so there's a little bit of a mutual. We can reminisce about the old days and laugh about dumb stuff and that. So it's fun, and yeah, I like it. And the thing I like about cons too is aside from the gaming, is the ones I've been at are really nice because of the just the social aspect of it. Even OSRCon, there was guys like in my, I think was it the Hyperborea game? It was either the Hyperborea. Oh, I only played 2 games, but one of them I had played games with at a convention with everybody at that table except one person. It was funny, and might have been the Hyperborea game. But there was one guy like this guy Ben. I played multiple. I played a couple Hyperborea games with him. I played, I think it was Shadow Dark with him. Like I played Shadow Dark at ShireCon last year with Ian McGarty, and he played an adventure that he ran that was really fun, kind of a Gonzo Shadow Dark adventure, but it was a lot of fun. I ended up buying it, um, but probably won't get a chance to run it unfortunately because Shadow Dark didn't really land with my home group. Like not didn't really, yeah, it didn't. I don't think they hated it, but it's nothing I don't think they have a burning desire to play again. So, which is kind of a bummer because I have more Shadow Dark stuff coming. So, I'll probably end up just selling it because I don't know when I'll actually play it again as a player, and I'm not looking to run it. So, but you learn those things. That's why I try different games. Oh, almost done. Oh, yeah, that camaraderie is awesome. Like last year at ShireCon, I caught some flack. Joe the lawyer was there. I ended up so I've been following Joe's channel for a long time. Interact with him on YouTube, and I told him like, hey, I'm going to ShireCon, and he's like, well, man, come come and introduce yourself. So Joe's Joe, and he's easy to spot in a crowd. And so I went up and I was like, hey man, and he's like, oh, he's like, about time, finally we get to meet. So I got to hang out with him a bit. He's a good guy. Had lunch together, and he was giving me crap because I would go there on Friday, stay Friday night, game Saturday, and the con's over. It doesn't go into Sunday. And I left to come back home Saturday after we got done gaming. But I ended up hanging out for like a few more hours than I would have because we were all sitting around the table. It was me and him, Eric Tenkar, Mike Stengel was there. It was just neat. We just all hang around shooting the breeze. There was another guy there that I met at that con. Me and Bloodworth were getting some food, and this guy came up, and I recognized him. He didn't know me from Adam. I'm nobody. But him and Bloodworth were talking, but his name's Brian Quartermanch, and he's written some Call of Cthulhu thing. And the thing with Brian is my very good friend that I game with, Matt, grew up playing games with him. So he's talked to me about Brian before. So we're, talking. Brian's a super nice guy. And I said, "Hey, you and I have a mutual friend." And I told him, and he's like, "Oh my God." So like, it was just that whole camaraderie thing was awesome. We took this silly photo and sent it to Matt, like, "Hey, what's going on? You should be here." But it was a lot of fun. Like I actually enjoy, like I intended like this ShireCon, I was only gonna play like one game a day and the rest of it I was just gonna hang out and just hang out with people. I mean, I had a guy come up to me last year. We played AD&D second edition together the first year I went. We sat next to each other actually. And I remember like we were playing and he pulls out this bag full of snacks and he like slides me a bag. He doesn't even know me. Like he just slides me a bag of Cheez-Its. He's like, "Here you go, man." So I'm like, "All right." And he walked right up to me last year. We were outside. It's a great venue. We were outside by these picnic tables. I was talking to some folks just hanging out. And he walked up and he's like, "Hey, I think his name's Matt." He's like, "Hey, I'm Matt." He's like, "We played together last year." That's a great, that's the vibe I'm looking for. Like just everybody acts like they're friends with each other. The guy Ben that I've played several games with, like at OSRCon, playing Talanian's game. We take a break, and then me, him, and Jeff go out to the bar, and like Ben buys us all a beer. Like just hanging out, shooting the breeze, talking about. I talked to Jeff a little about like his design stuff with Hyperborea, just like complimenting him. Like it's such a he did two great things. Like he took the system and made it really really good, and then he attached it to just a really cool setting. Like really really cool. Um, yeah, that camaraderie. That's why I want to go. Like I went to CNY this year. My son went with me. Never been to a con before, and we didn't play any games. And I had a blast. He had a blast, like to the point where he wants to go back. He had an opportunity. We all had opportunities of playing games, but he was like, no, he liked hanging out. We were there. We had Mike from Thunderstruck Workshop right next to us with him and his daughter running the neighborhood. We hung out with them all weekend. The guys from Emperor's Choice, um, Lord Gazumba was there. He hung out. We hung out. We had dinner, and Jason Vey from Elf Lair Games. He was one of the special guests, but he's hanging out with us. Nobody was like sequestered off in private rooms. Greg Gillespie was there. My son went up and bought more Dragon Slayer stuff off him, talked to him about running, how he's running his game. And Greg was nothing but encouraging, just like, "Oh, you should get on our Facebook and post that stuff." And just awesome. Awesome. I don't want to go to a con where, people are treated differently depending on the badge that they have or stuff like that. I have no interest in that. Like, I don't need that. Yeah, we can do that in most cons here. I'm gonna have to go really quick. My battery's about to die, but we can do that. I think like Total Con is one that I haven't been to, but it's a good con, but they restrict the drinking. I don't think you can drink at the table. But all the ones I've been to, ShireCon has like 2.5 bars. It's at a VFW. Um, CNY, there was no issue with it. The bar, the restaurant was doing the thing. We had, this one waitress last year running her ass off. That woman worked her ass off for us. No issue with her, but yeah, you could drink. It was, and I'm not much of a drinker. I don't mind having a beer at the table, but or two, but I'm not much of a drinker anyway. So, um, yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I look forward to it. It's kind of like my little. I mean, I'm retired, so every day's a vacation. But like, they're like my. I don't go like to the Bahamas or anything like that. Like going to CNY is my vacation. Like I'll go next year. I'll be there on Thursday and I'll leave on Sunday. It's worth, the drive, 5.5 hours, and the expense of doing that. Because I have such a great time. People are great. Roger, Jason, everybody's great. I got to meet Dan in person there, and hang out. Um, um, Great dude. Just great people. Everybody's having fun, and it's just a really. I mean, we were hanging out in the hallway. I don't remember what night it was, It's like, if you watch those Tuesday night stream guys from there, like Edgelord and all those guys, 10 Car, Joe Block, we're just sitting around blocking this hallway, pulling up chairs and couches and stuff, and um, just sitting there, everybody just shooting shit, having a great time. Uh, Really cool, really cool. So if you can get to especially CNY, if you can get to CNY, ShireCon, uh, you definitely should go. They're great. And if you have cons like that local to you, you definitely should be going because it's a lot of fun. But I am going to have to end this, guys, because my phone battery is about to die. So, hey, I appreciate everybody jumping on here and commenting. Like I said, I think this is going to try to make this a Monday thing for me where I do it on Mondays. Um, I'm horrible about this, but I'm a little shameless, I guess, plug trying to get my viewing hours up too. Not the only reason I'm doing this because I actually really like this part of it, like just talking to you guys and help me get stuff done. But I need to get my viewing hours up just a little bit so I can before the YouTube rules and regulations change. So any help there, I would appreciate. But hey, thanks everybody, and I will catch you all at the next one.